Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize, white girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees, I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, white girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Happy April Fools. I'm sorry. It is me in studio with Izzy Gutierrez. I can assure you, or, well, considering Stugotz is one of the variables, I can't fully assure you, but Dan and Stu will be returning this week. Got a lighter staff today, too. We got people out sick and whatnot, which is a shame because we've added to our ensemble Jess and Lucy, and here on the day of the biggest college women's basketball game of all time, neither of them are in. So we'll get into that with like Tony and Roy. I'm sorry about that, but Izzy Gutierrez was so kind to help us out here.
I heard you're missing some feminine energy, so I showed up.
I wasn't going to do that, but I'm happy you're always there.
I do like the Meryl Streep shirt.
Oh, thank you.
This is immense today, right? This is the biggest women's basketball game of all time. I think the ratings will bear that out. It is the story of the day, no doubt. It is happening before the Final Four, which I've seen a lot of takes out there saying, why did the committee do this? Why did they put them in this bracket this early? Because I wanted to guarantee this matchup. If you wait one more round, you're not guaranteed that. It was hard enough getting to this point. These teams have been challenged in the tournament, and you have something that maybe some newspapers have posited as good versus evil, and we'll get into that in a second. But I cannot believe that we are here. If you watched morning cable television, it is the start of every show. It is Angel Reese. It is Caitlin Clark. It is Iowa. It is LSU. It is Kim Mulkey. You have tons of huge personalities at the forefront here, and they are going to own this night, and I'm really surprised that we're here.
I mean, you said personalities. I don't think it's personalities that is bringing people to the TV. I think it's the basketball. Like, I think Caitlin Clark, especially, people want to see what, if they haven't seen her already, what's the big deal about this woman. And then you sort of, if you're just learning, if you didn't even watch last year, or didn't really know all the sort of smack talk that went between them and everything else, then you're curious to see what these defending champs look like against, again, this woman who's like taken everybody's sort of, you know, fantasy and like created this great like women's basketball player, this team that everybody wants to watch. But I think the Kim Mulkey element adds a whole nother, like, I don't care if you have fallen in love with Caitlin Clark. I don't care if you hate Caitlin Clark. I don't care if you don't know anything about LSU. There's something about the Kim Mulkey element that you're just drawn to because she's just putting herself out there as this tremendous villain and doesn't care what you think.
Oh, but she took exception to how the LA Times at least positioned this whole thing as good versus evil and villains, which is weird. We're going to play two clips. First, I certainly want to play the Kim Mulkey retort to the LA Times thing, which, by the way, came at a great time for Kim Mulkey because it was a pretty garbage column. And I understand that it was a macro approach to explain the story of this. And Kim Mulkey, in every sense of the word, is a villain. But I think people projected something onto this team. And let's play the clip and we'll talk about it after.
How dare people attack kids like that? You don't have to like the way we play. You don't have to like the way we trash talk. You don't have to like any of that. We're good with that. But I can't sit up here as a mother and a grandmother and a leader of young people and allow somebody to say that. I don't get that. I'm sorry. I come from a different generation. I get it. But I know sexism when I see it and I read it. That was awful.
So Kim Mulkey takes the opportunity to weaponize something at a good time for her, I think, because she was under attack from the Washington Post article, which, by the way,
Nothing burger?
big nothing burger. What?
Like, she's unlikable.
She's
Didn't know
unlikable.
that.
She's bad to players. She's bad to former coworkers.
So is that the new one, or is that the one that still hasn't come out yet?
The Washington Post one was the Nothing Burger, where it talks about her, she's estranged from her family. It was just basically like a personality piece kind of thing.
Released.
Yeah, I read it, and I'm like, all right, so when is this article dropping? Nothing about this Kim Mulkey piece really surprised me, and I think this is manna from heaven to get this article so she can use it for her team. And honestly, she's in the right. It was kind of a BS article. Jeremy, it's kind of like that meme, worst person in the world, made a good point.
I looked up that article so slowly because I said to myself, please don't be a Bill Plaschke column. Please don't be a Bill Plaschke column. And I looked it up, saw the byline, and I was like, okay, I don't know if I know this person. That makes me happy. The question with Kim Mulkey to me is, like, first of all, she doesn't play that role very well. She's better off at being the jerk and being the villain. That, you just don't really feel sorry for her there. Oh, how dare you not care about kids? Well, we can talk about a whole different set of things that Kim Mulkey doesn't seem to care about her own student athletes back in the day. But that's my question with Kim is, like, how good of a basketball coach do you have to be for all these girls in high school to eventually say, hey, yeah, I want to be around that for 4 or 5 years? Like, I get the whole idea of getting the most out of people, being demanding and all. There's so many coaches around the country that can do that without all the nonsense. So why go there? Even the players like Haley Von Lith, who transferred over there, seems like she's had a bad time there. Yeah. And so it's like, what do we? Is she adding to her aura? Is she making more people want to come to her school now with all this? Or is she just showing herself to the point where she's going to lose some people? Because I just don't get the appeal. I'm going to need somebody to explain this one to me.
I get the appeal, and I think that she's certainly becoming more infamous, but I don't necessarily think that's bad for her brand. I think people will pay more attention to the championship that they most recently won. She's a very successful head coach. And while she had to take this approach, on the opposite side of the coin, I found Angel Reese's reaction to everything going into both this game and on the heels of that article and being called a villain. Keep in mind, this whole rivalry with Caitlin Clark started over the Tony Yayo, the John Cena "You Can't See Me," and her talking trash on the court, pointing to a ring finger and kind of embracing a villain role. And we can get into why this feels like good guys versus bad guys. But here's Angel Reese talking about the Caitlin Clark game that's coming up tonight.
Me and Caitlin Clark don't hate each other. Like, I want everybody to understand that it's just a super competitive game. And, like, I would just wish people realize that, like, once I get between those lines, it's no friends. I have plenty of friends on the court that I talk to outside of the game, but, like, when I get between those lines, like, we're not friends, we're not buddies. I'm going to talk trash to you. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get in your head the whole entire game. But after the game, we can kick it. Like, I don't think people really realize that, and that's fine. I'll take the villain role. I'll take the hit for it, but I know we're going women's basketball, and if this is the way we're going to do it, then this is the way we're going to do it. You like it or you don't.
So, Izzy, you have the head coach saying, how dare you call us villains in this way? And you have Angel Reese fully embracing the villain's role on the court. So a bit of a different message from player and coach there.
It's almost like people don't understand what they're watching because women are doing it. But all this stuff doesn't need explanation when it happens in the men's game. Like, nobody's saying, oh, wow, Jimmy Butler must really hate Drew Holiday because of all those antics during the playoffs. No, like, we get what that's about. And so, yeah, the fact that she has to explain it, whatever, it is where it is. But she's saying what she said was absolutely perfect. It was almost like just the ABCs of sport.
I'm glad Lucy's not here at the moment because I'm going to say something. I think I'm rooting for LSU tonight. I want chaos. I want Kim Mulkey to have to just be feeling herself after the game. I want it to be close. I want America to be because everyone's rooting for Caitlin Clark, right? So I'm just kind of being an anarchist.
Is everybody
I don't
rooting
know
for
about
Caitlin
that.
Clark?
No, not over here.
Two Americas.
Yeah, this is a two Americas thing, and it's funny because I do want to talk. There are racial components to tonight, which is how Kim Mulkey and some people in that locker room also took that LA Times article too, and I do think that a bit of that is justified. A few years ago, Bomani was in co-hosting with us, and he said there are certain boxing matches that I can only watch with my black friends. And I was like, what do you mean? Hey, why can't I watch boxing with you? He's like, no, this is one of those fights that I just want to watch with black friends. There are racial components to this matchup, this Caitlin Clark Angel Reese one specifically, and it'll play out on social media. Just like there were racial elements to Magic and Bird, which is always the comparison when people are talking about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. There is a racial component, and if you don't see it tonight, tune into social media because it'll be in full force.
Yeah, but social media is the worst. Like, in reality, most people like Angel Reese, and Kim Mulkey's the one that we don't like.
No, you're not going to get any disagreement from me that social media is the worst, but it is an amplification of people's feelings. I mean, you can get into bots and whatnot, but there is a racial component 100% of what's going down tonight.
Well, and that was the problem with the article about LSU versus UCLA and the way that was positioned of good guys versus bad guys, because the way it was articulated in that particular matchup was essentially whiter team versus blacker team. And that was the issue at least in that column, in the way that it was sort of positioned there, where tonight the reason that you have sort of the rivalry's already there. Like, it's an actual stated rivalry where we've seen trash talk. The way that Kim Mulkey was talking about it was specifically about that article and the way it positioned her team, where Angel Reese is discussing, like, the basketball elements of what that rivalry can look like and why people might look at her as the villain in a matchup like this one tonight.
I think when you talk about sort of the racial element and you're setting these two sides, it feels like it's suggesting that there's sort of conflict there. And really, the way, when you say it, what I hear is, hey, there's a lot of people that relate to Angel Reese, and they're going to cheer for her. There's a lot of people that relate to Caitlin Clark, and they're going to cheer for her. They don't hate the other one. They just can't relate to the other one. And so that's where I see a racial element. But I don't sit down in this game and say, hey, which race battle is going to win today? No, I don't see any of that. I see if Angel Reese goes off, there's going to be people who support her going off on Twitter. And if Caitlin Clark does something that seems like it would be disrespectful to LSU or Angel Reese, then they will stand up and defend that. But I don't think there's this default place where, hey, I'm an Angel Reese person, I hate Iowa. Maybe off of last game a little bit, but not really.
We're all talking about the same thing, and that social media is not a real place. But we've seen with, back in the day, Kobe versus LeBron. We see to this day Cristiano versus Messi. If you support Angel Reese, the social media fandom is such that you don't like Caitlin Clark. And if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, you go out of your way to diss Angel Reese. That's just what American fandom is right now at the moment in sports, Jeremy.
It almost feels more like when it was Steph versus LeBron, in the way that you're talking about there's an appreciation for each other's games. Like the biggest stands of the other one are going to point out why there are flaws in the other person's game or why this team or this program is better than the other. But ultimately, at the end of it, like, neither of those guys hated each other. In the league, most fans really appreciated both players for what they do. So it's more the narratives that we're creating around this game and the rivalry that already exists that makes it fun, right? That's why Steph versus LeBron became a thing, because they played each other so many years in a row. And when you have Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark here, it's a similar type of thing. Obviously, Angel Reese, I wouldn't necessarily say is the LeBron James of women's college basketball, but when you have these narratives that are out there, it makes it a lot more fun.
And when you mentioned the John Cena, right? She did that, and she sort of mimicked Caitlin Clark saying, hey, don't worry about her.
Yeah.
And those sort of added to them.
Yeah.
Famously, LeBron's got to look back at Steph after he blocked him like this little kid.
Exactly.
And that looks like, I don't respect this man. Of course he respects that man.
Yeah.
He talks about it all the time. But
Which is what
between
Angel
the lines is between the lines.
Which is what Angel was trying to say. And we once again reference the pro wrestling elements to the start of this rivalry, which college sports don't present this often, especially in our day and age, where it's one thing for Magic and Bird to be rivals in college, but with players going to the pros quicker, with the randomness of the tournament, you have a legit rivalry between LSU and Iowa just because they're playing for a second consecutive year. it's like UConn, Gino versus Pat Summitt. You could always guarantee, because they had such a monopoly over the sport back in the day, that was a legitimate rivalry. And once Pat went away, women's college basketball was missing that. But I want to get back to the pro wrestling elements, which is there's a saying in pro wrestling, like from the crowds when they really get into a story, really get into a match, fight forever. And sometimes they'll even chant both these guys. It's not like the stand-em. They'll just be chants, both these guys, both these guys. And I think tonight's a great opportunity.
It's a very confusing chant for me. Thank you for explaining
it. Both these guys. And I think that tonight is a wonderful opportunity to root on both of these athletes on the court, because it is something special. Roy, you mentioned that you were going for LSU, and then we talked about the racial components to this, and you didn't really add to why you were rooting for LSU. I see that Kim Mulkey is the head coach, so it can't be Kim Mulkey.
It is definitely not Kim Mulkey. I'm doing it for Angel.
Are you just flat out saying I'm
is it because Angel is black and Caitlin is white?
No, I mean, I respect Caitlin. Like, she's the all-time leading scorer. Good for her. But I'm cheering for Angel tonight. Sorry.
Okay. So you don't want to say it. But
I don't want to say it. You put me in a situation.
Well, hey, Roy, we can all feel it.
How you feel it?
Just say it, Roy. Say it.
Don't put him in that spot.
I mean, he's saying
put himself in that spot.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, you said.
Here,
yeah.
He said, I know who I'm rooting for tonight. I was like, that feels
firm on that part. Why you're not so firm on
well, you didn't have to dive into it.
This feels like such a cool moment for women's sport in general, and when you counter that with what happened yesterday, where there's not an asymmetrical court, that
unbelievable.
It is truly unbelievable. It's something that's out of a mockumentary style special. I don't understand how we get here. For those that don't know, and hopefully we can throw up some B-roll there it is, that two teams had agreed. It was discovered before the game that a three-point line wasn't the same on either end of the court. Now, you do switch sides.
You could tell by the eye. They walk to the other end. It's clearly smaller.
Yeah, that looks like, 2 feet, 2.5 feet there?
It is very noticeable to our eyes that the three-point lines at both ends of the court look very, very different. This is not something I've ever seen before. In the NBA, you'll have some controversies regarding this rim seemed to be a little off balance.
Wow, $5. If the rim is slightly off, somebody's noticing that right away, and we're taking as long as it takes to get that thing right. The resolution on this one is what shocked the hell out of me. Actually, not really, because it would have been shocking if it was the men who came up with this resolution. The women just said, whatever, we'll play anyway.
By the way, this could not have affected the game any less. I did a deep dive. I was like, who had which side in the first half? How was their three-point shooting? NC State was on the side with the longer one, and they balled out shooting in the first half.
No, they were unstoppable.
So it's like it is embarrassing. It's a bad look, but it couldn't have affected the game any less.
By the way, NC State making it to a Final Four.
They're having a moment.
The NC State basketball for men's and women's, both programs make it to the Final Four. NC State, their women's program, got clobbered by the University of Miami. That was Miami's signature win that people were trying to poke holes in. And so I see them make it to the Final Four, and I just get more and more angry.
And they're doing the same thing they did when they won it. They'd had to win every game they've won since the beginning of the ACC tournament.
Yeah, on the men's side. I was talking specifically to the women, because that was a huge win, and people didn't think NC State in the women's basketball tournament were really worthy of a higher seed, and they started poking holes in their game, and here they are in the Final Four. Incredible moment. But yeah, this is the dream scenario anytime your fledgling program enters a conference tournament. If we can just rattle off 13 straight wins, we're national champions. We can save our season. Their head coach was on the hot seat. They wanted him out. Him winning the ACC tournament not only gives him an automatic bye into the NCAA tournament, a tournament that he would not have secured a seed for had he not won that, and it also kicked in a 2-year extension into his deal that even entering the NCAA tournament, fans were a little lukewarm on. Here we are. DJ Burns becomes a star, and NC State has this miraculous run to the Final Four. knocking out Duke on their way.
So we are talking about the men. Okay.
Now we're back to talking about the men.
That ACC tournament, they could have been gone.
They were trailing Louisville. Louisville's a garbage basketball team. They were trailing Louisville at one point during the ACC tournament. This is the Cinderella story. Now they've won an NCAA championship in their past. They're a Tobacco Road dynasty. This is the farthest they've been since 1983, though. They are a name that matters. Anything in that Tobacco Road corridor matters when it comes to this sport. But they've been the forgotten program. As other programs in that corridor have had their moment, NC State is just holding on to success of a bygone era with Jimmy V. So to have both these programs in the Final Four for NC State at the exact same time, it's a hell of a moment. And that's a really cool college town because it's a big city, but it kind of feels like an SEC town when you compare it. And here we are, an ACC school, once again, in the Final Four. Everyone tells us 3 straight years now, Seth Davis among them, the ACC is overrated. And what does the ACC do come tournament time? They always show out. And there'd be more if the ACC didn't get as many teams as they actually got into the tournament because they were cannibalizing themselves by the end of it. So DJ Burns is going to be playing Zach Edey in one Final Four matchup. The big man in college basketball, Tony, is back.
It never really went anywhere, right? Like that's one place where you can always look at college basketball and have a guy who's 7'4" who can't play in the NBA, but he's a dominant force in college. And then stories like DJ Burns, where you get a guy who, when you look at him on the basketball court, you're like, is that a defensive lineman playing basketball? Like, I don't really know what he is. Then you see him with the drop steps, left hand floaters, right hand floaters, dominating, great passing. He looks like Escalade out there when he passes. Rest in peace, Escalade, by the way. But he gets passes where he's down in the lane.
I had no idea we'd lost
and he
Escalade.
Yeah, rest in peace.
idea.
Yeah, rest in power, Escalade. So he would get balls in the block, kind of do a shimmy shake behind the back. DJ Burns is an electric, but it's only a player that can live in college.
And I feel like people are upset because of that. Because you watch it in college and say, why can't that person exist in the NBA? And the answer is the game's just gotten way faster. You can't do that. You can't just give him the ball. He's not going to do anything defensively. I get that. But the fact that there is just still a place for them in college, not just to appear, but to dominate and say, hey, that's what that can look like, a lot of fun.
Like, I've seen him run up and down the court. Like, you know, the next level, that game's not going to translate. Yeah. But if you get back to the basket where he's backing down Kyle Filipowski, who weighs 113 pounds soaking wet, he's dominating. The thing is, you can only do that in the NBA when you're Jokic.
Yeah, we've seen it, like, was it Kenny Lofton Jr.? Like, we've seen it in, garbage games at the end of seasons where guys just get committed, or teams will commit to giving them the ball, but you're not going to do that.
Was that Barry Larkin Jr. you're thinking of?
No, Kenny Lofton Jr.
Wow.
Kenny Lofton.
No relation.
Multiple baseball players' sons.
No relation.
That's a fun for you.
Can I
Kenny
come to
Lofton's
Roy's
not
defense
related.
Well, it
for
would
a
have been
second?
Barry's son.
He's a Euro legend, by the way, Shane Larkin.
Roy, do you mind if I...
he's a monster over there. I
He's
was
a Hall
actually
of Famer
in
European player.
Greece, and there was wall-to-wall coverage of Shane Larkin. Don't trust me. I'm in a group chat. We're taking plenty. We're not myopic. We pay attention to the Euro success. I do want to talk a little bit on the other end about the pro prospects and why it's dumb that we can't separate what we're seeing in college from what we're seeing from NBA mock drafts and finding out. No. I just hate that when Zach Edey does what he does, and this show is guilty of it. Hell, I'm guilty of it. But I had an epiphany over the weekend. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this, take it for what it is. It's kind of like a 5'8" college quarterback that lights the world on fire. Next level, they're not going to do it. Yeah, there'll be barbershop conversations on how people will try to trick themselves into thinking this guy can maybe do it at the next level because the game has changed. Let's enjoy this ride for what it is. The Zach Edeys, the DJ Burns. We're going to be talking to Donovan Clingan from UConn. These are, even though he might actually have pro prospects, these are wonderful stories that are unique to this sport. And when people talked about college basketball when I was growing up, when they were romanticizing these things, these were the types of stories that they would lift up. And I hate that the discourse just totally wants to undercut it. It's a bad week shaping up for Dan Le Batard. I'll tell you that right now, especially with that performance from Zach Edey. I don't know if you fall with me, but I am just done with taking negative pot shots, poking holes in someone's pro game, because it's not the pro game. It's college basketball. They are dominating the sport right now. Big, meaty men slapping meat is going to dominate your Final Four.
I think I have a bit of a hot take. Zach Edey, too tall. Just want to throw that out there.
Mike's already done this with
too tall.
Wembanyama.
He's too tall.
I've done this with Edey too. He is too tall.
He's too tall.
He is too tall.
Clingan makes it work.
But
He's 7'2", though.
But he's got the physical limitations that Wembanyama doesn't have that make you realize,
Cement
okay,
feet.
our great game is safe, and we don't have to protect it from
Imagine
Zach
Victor
Edey.
Wembanyama, Zach Edey, and bigger balls.
The one criticism I would have for NC State in this tournament, the men's side and DJ Burns, is they try to recreate the San Francisco 49ers walk from the locker room to the field with like a guy in a boombox. Like, no one does this better than the Niners. It's super cool. And this one, it's just DJ Burns walking and like 3 guys that look like me behind him. And he's holding like a sad Bluetooth speaker. It's not like a oversized
You're saying
thing.
DJ Burns out of these group of guys is like the most physically imposing?
It just looks like DJ Burns walking out. Like there's people behind him, but none of them look like players. Like there's outside of him, they're not exactly a large team. It's just that's one area they could improve.
So he looked like this generation's Radio Raheem.
That's right.
It's not Fred Warner behind him. It's Chris Cody.
Are they trying to do a thing though? Maybe like with
They
the
are
Bluetooth
trying to
speaker?
recreate that. I'm telling you, like
But
other
it's like a
teams,
joke though.
Yeah.
Maybe they're being
Because
ironic.
I'm sure they can get a boombox if they wanted to. I think the point with the little like Bluetooth speakers.
I don't know, man. It just I've seen it a couple times and it's sad every time.
It's because it's a team manager in a polo that's walking through with the boombox. I'm watching the video now, and it is embarrassing.
It's
DJ
just-
Burns looks like the only
It's not the
pro-level athlete
49ers.
there.
Like the 49ers couldn't look any cooler doing it, and it's the exact
This
opposite.
is DJ Burns' 3rd basketball program. He was at Tennessee and Winthrop before that. And there was a graphic that I saw before the game with Duke that Duke was the only team whose starters in the starting 5 had been with just that one program. If you look, there were some graphs that I couldn't even tell the program that they were looking
saw
at
that,
because there wasn't even a logo represented by the program that they were in the Elite 8 with. It's a wild time in college sports particularly, which is why I don't know how many times we're going to get the opportunity to see what we're seeing tonight with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. These players deciding to stay in a sport because they both could have gone pro easily last year, deciding to come back, get an NIL check, meet up yet again in the tournament. That's why I think tonight is going to be a ratings bonanza. It might be the highest rated college basketball game, men's or women's, of the modern era.
And I think your point about Larry versus Magic, I think that actually sets up really well, and it kind of helps me. I don't know if I'm not speaking for Roy here, but Roy, let me know if this is something.
Which
that
one's
makes
Larry,
you
which
want
one's
to
Magic?
Whoa.
I'm going to need you to specify.
All right, so I'm not going to do that.
The thing is, they both also talk trash on the court, too. So when Caitlin does the shut the bleep up stuff on the court, that lands differently when Caitlin does it than it would for Angel.
Well,
you're playing yourself if you're not acknowledging that.
I think part of the reason that anybody would cheer for Angel, regardless of race, is Caitlin, even though she hasn't won the championship, has gotten, to use Chris's phrase, all her flowers. She has gotten so much attention. She is going to, be all eyes on her for the rest of her career, effectively. Angel Reese, meanwhile, has won a championship and still doesn't feel like she's respected in the same way. And I feel like it helps the rivalry more if Angel wins again tonight.
Yeah.
And just sets it up for in the
For the
long run.
pros.
Because if Caitlin wins, it feels like it's the end of a story. It's like, oh, she didn't win it last year, came back, beat Angel, won the whole thing, boom, now she's going to the pros, greatest player ever.
Pro wrestling elements yet again. That's the narrative of Cody Rhodes. You want Caitlin Clark to finish her story. And it may not come here in the college ranks. It's funny, though, when you made your joke about which one's Magic, which one's Larry. When Larry and Magic were playing, the smiling, commercial, marketable face was Magic, and the guy that would talk loads of shit on the court and be nasty to opposing players was Larry Bird. And I don't know if history remembers it when that was happening. It was a little bit before my time, but there was a white-black thing very clearly. And they went all the way through the pros with it to the point that most people still talk about it, romanticize it, saying that's when basketball was at its best.
Just hearing this conversation, I can imagine the steam coming out of Gino Ariema's ears. Has he ever been this irrelevant?
He's so relevant,
he dominated the sport forever, and we're not even discussing. They play tonight too.
That game is arguably could even be a better game. USC against UConn, where you have Juju Watkins against Paige Beckers. That's going to be a spectacular basketball game. And yet, because of the spectacle of what Iowa and LSU is tonight, we just spent the first 30 minutes of the show talking about the other game. There's some great basketball happening tonight.
It's WrestleMania week, and I'm going to go with yet another wrestling analogy. There was a Toronto WrestleMania where Hollywood Hulk Hogan took on The Rock, and it is the only match that is remembered from that card. Chris Jericho had to face Triple H after that match, and it was a dud. And that is what's going to happen to USC UConn today. They are following Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus The Rock in Skydome.
Well, you're saying that nobody talks about Geno or UConn. That's because everybody's talking about Don Sterling in South Carolina because they've been dominating lately.
Yeah, they've been dominating, but they've also been tested in ways that the lines associated with their name headed into this tournament may not reflect. They've been in some battles and been tested in ways that I don't think anyone was expecting because it was a foregone conclusion, which is another great reason why the committee got it right in putting LSU and Iowa where they did because of how dominant South Carolina has been all season long. If they were on an opposite end of the bracket, we may not have seen this.
Was Paige Beckers going to be Caitlin Clark before Clayton Clark before those injuries?
Yeah, and then she just got hurt, and she's come back and been an amazing player. But there's an argument to be made, I think, that like she had this ceiling that everybody anticipated she would reach in college that she hasn't been able to because of those injuries. But she's still a spectacular player. Caitlin Clark just got to come in and have this unbelievable career that's led to her getting more of the hype.
You mentioned Geno, and Geno's not just jealous because he's on the bill and he's a total afterthought. He's going on after this game, and he is a small font, top-of-the-line Coachella act compared to Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. But Geno Auriemma isn't even the biggest cult of personality head coach in the sport anymore. Kim Mulkey has taken that. He's probably more jealous of Kim Mulkey than he is of LSU and Iowa grabbing headlines. He's like, I'm the coach that got under everybody's skin. I was the one that was driving the conversation. Geno is actually positioned quite well that a UConn run with Geno Auriemma at the helm has flown totally under the radar. Man, what a moment in time we're in right now. And depending on how this game goes, because if it follows a script and we have a tight finish and we have Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark going at one another, and no matter the result, it's going to be great because it's either going to be tied in the college ranks or Caitlin Clark's going to have another painful loss and has to finish the story in the pros. No matter the result, as long as it's a good game with individual moments where maybe they jaw at each other on the court, this sets up so nicely for women's basketball as a whole. And I do think that even though it's been debated whether or not they'd make less money in the pros. I think the NIL, we saw that Fox was considering an NIL package for Caitlin Clark because the ratings are such. It is hugely important to advance the game and do what they're doing right now for college basketball for the WNBA.
Where do you think that's where it goes? You think it goes they just follow the fandom to the WNBA because it's a different time of year. They're also not going to be as great when they step on that WNBA court. So to me, the fear of not continuing the flow, to ride that wave, it's got to be one or two more great players in college.
You don't think that they're going to be as great in the pros? I understand that the competition is better, but when LeBron James is this highly touted prospect and he fulfills that promise, no matter who's on the court, his elite level of play does pop off the screen.
Yeah, was Steph Curry great right when he got into the pros?
No, he had to work it out. There was also a weird roster construction
He had injuries too. His ankles were dust those first couple years.
You didn't know where you were going to play him. You had Monte Ellis there. He went to a really weird spot because Minnesota decided to take Johnny Flynn.
It just depends on, she's probably going to be with Indiana. It just depends on how much responsibility they want to give her right off the bat.
I'd say she's better, minus 8,000 to go to Indiana. Yeah, she's definitely going to go to Indiana. I kind of want to, depending on how tonight goes, I want either Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese to rep another country in the Olympics and just pour more gasoline on this rivalry.
I actually think if the college game still has the stars like Juju Watkins sort of carrying this over into next year because she seems like she is the next great thing, I think that's where you're going to see most of the attention. And then if and when we see their greatness show up in the WNBA, they will draw a bunch of eyes there, mostly because I think it's the time of year that really lends itself to people trying out new sports. But I think those two are probably what's going to have to be the draw. So in a way, you almost kind of knock on the door of that coach in Indiana, say, listen, just go ahead and give her the keys.
Last year, when you had a really bizarre Final Four, a historical outlier, you had Miami, FAU, San Diego State made it to the championship game, and you had the perceived blue blood UConn, the legitimate one, as Miami is still building up their credibility. It was weird, and there wasn't really a star-making performance there. This year, there are stars in the Final Four, and it's because of their mass. Let's be honest. They're doing things at unbelievable sizes. And I want to circle back to some of the pro prospect conversation that surrounded Zach Edey rather than just the joy. Because if you watch that game, hell, dude even looks spry. More spry than he's looked. As the season's gone on, he's played himself into better shape, and he's quicker to the eye. He dominated that game yesterday. A 40-burger.
That was
Zach
a
Edey.
perfect phrasing by you. You said they're doing things at unbelievable sizes. The things they're doing, totally normal. It's just the size that makes it interesting. Every Zach Edey highlight is pivot, layup.
Yeah.
Pivot, layup. Or, hey,
Shoot over guy that's smaller.
Or that. Or,
Yeah, but
you know,
I mean, now he's getting the type of rejections that it's not just, okay, that's a tall guy rejection. Like, he's getting some oomph behind it, some stink behind the rejections. I understand that he's got some things working to his advantage.
He cut down the net without a ladder.
There was the pro prospect conversation surrounding Zach Edey has usually been, especially on this show, that he's probably got European prospects, not going to see the court. And then someone made the Boban comp, and Boban, depending on the situation, he could go in and get buckets. If you plopped Boban into the NCAA tournament right now, I imagine it would look a lot like Zach Edey. What do you make of the narrative around Zach Edey? It certainly bothered him because there was some attitude and some chest pounding over there at Purdue, and they have certainly fed off of this narrative that he's not going to do anything at the next level. It's kind of weird. They're seeking motivation for one player's pro prospects.
So it's just a rumor that Dan is not coming back until after Edey's knocked out of the tournament, because I have a feeling his social media accounts are just on fire with Purdue folks.
I usually go to you for pro prospect evaluation.
Here's the thing. When he gets to the NBA, if he's going to be anything, he's going to be leaner. He's going to be more mobile than we see him now. Will it be enough of an upgrade? I don't know. Does he have the time to do that and have teams be patient with him? Absolutely. I mean, Orlando Robinson, I know he's not the same type of player as at times was a rotation player with the Heat. So I think Zach Edey, get him in the right shape, he can absolutely be an NBA rotation guy.
We should be fair to the Zach Edey discussion. It's not like everyone's out there saying that this is a bust in the making or someone with zero pro prospects. Jeremy, you were telling me that some people are higher on him.
Yeah, I mean, he's polarizing. I was just looking at a few different mock drafts. The Ringer has him going at 12, right? But then Bleacher Report has him at 30th to the Boston Celtics, which is perfect. And then on CBS, you have, in their mock drafts, they have two different analysts doing it. One has him in the lottery at 13. The other doesn't have him in the first round at all. So the reality is it'll need to be the right team, the right fit, a team that already has a starting center that you can take some time to project Edey as a prospect and get him into the type of NBA shape we were just talking about, leaner, quicker, allow him to grow. You know, one of these drafts had him going to Oklahoma City, where you already have this really good young core, and it could give him time to grow as a player. But the skills operating offensively are obviously there. It's just that's what makes him polarizing is, can that translate as a guy who mostly just plays back to the basket to the NBA at this point?
But everybody in the NBA can get buckets, right? It's what you can do defensively. If they can just ice you off the court because they'll just put a shooting center on you and you can't play on the perimeter,
not everybody
you're kind
in
of
the
cooked.
NBA can get buckets, man.
Mike,
everybody.
I guarantee you,
We're getting to that
everybody
point.
on the floor can get
Can't have a
buckets.
weakness in the NBA. It's almost getting to that point. If you can't, that's Duncan Robinson, right? He took a whole year off to learn how to play more, so he couldn't be a weakness at certain parts of the game. But with the big guys, you know, especially with somebody like Zach Edey, and I know he's polarizing, but I don't think any of those people think he's going to be a franchise center, right? So you just look at him as a potential rotation person. I don't really think you even think of him as a starting center for 10 years in your league. I think if you can convince yourself that he can be a rotation player and then he comes in and surprises you, that's the best case scenario.
Couple DMPs. Like on the high end of things, he could be like maybe a poor man's Enes Kanter. A situational player that you put in there. You're certainly, if a team's going to try to blitz you and catch you on switches and operate from the perimeter, and you realize, okay, this is not the right counter punch. What is the situation where Zach Edey can flourish at the next level?
It has to be the right coach, and somebody has to be inventive. You have to be able to utilize something that only 40 years ago we thought was the most important characteristic of a basketball player was simply height. We would draft you if you're 7'6", regardless. And it's so funny to me that the best example, and this is, I wrote a story on the Thompson twins a couple years ago, so I follow them a lot. Watching them on two different teams and watching a coach use them entirely differently. And it's so obvious how one is using that player's skill set the right way and one is not. And the one who was not was Monty Williams in Detroit and Asar Thompson just sitting in the corner all day long on offense, just kind of staring at the ceiling. And Amen Thompson, all you got to do is move him in closer to the dunker spot. Changes the entire game. And so when you talk about somebody like Zach Edey, if you bring him in with somebody who has convinced themselves that, hey, it's not part of today's game, he's not going to work, then he's not going to get the best of himself. But if you put him with somebody who still believes that there's a place for him in this league, then, yeah, he's probably going to get the best out of him that you could possibly get.
In the pro games, isn't there already starting to be somewhat of a pivot back to having a role for traditional big men, where it was the school of thought just like 2 years ago, which is anybody that's over 6'10" needs to be able to move laterally. They basically need to model their game after Ban, and now you do see more of the traditional bigs. It's never going to be, unless the game drastically changes, it's never going to be like it was before in the 90s, where Zach Edey would universally be considered a lottery pick back then.
Is Brook Lopez an Edey comp? Like, if he ends up shooting threes, can you play him out there like if he's as mobile?
Does he have that
Brook
type
Lopez?
of shooting touch? Most of the highlights
Brook
I've seen.
Lopez
I've never seen
didn't.
him shoot a jumper.
Yeah.
But Brook Lopez didn't shoot at all when he first came into the league, and it
Outside
took
of free
him time
throws-
to evolve.
Outside of free throws, I've never seen Zach Edey in a shooting motion have both hands on the ball. Think about the
Everything is a
highlights.
jump hook.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, he's excellent at that. Brook Lopez would be great. Brook Lopez turned himself into a shooter.
A knockdown three-point shooter.
The question is going to be, what does Edey actually have in his bag outside of what we see in games, right? Because that's what helps his team win at Purdue right now and get to the Final Four. But Bam Adebayo is actually a perfect example. He played at Kentucky, and nobody knew he was capable of dribbling the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, he literally, I remember watching his hype tape coming out into the draft and him hitting threes, and going full court in some of those summer league games, and everyone was like, wait, who is this guy? I didn't know he was capable of that. So maybe Edey is capable of shooting a little further out, but right now, as a 7'4" guy in college who wants to win a championship, that's all you're seeing.
The same way somebody else look at Jalen Duren and say, oh, yeah, that's a Bam Adebayo comp. We're just making body just like projections. Like Zach Edey's body type is what we're saying. What he shows on a practice court in the NBA, we don't know. Maybe he's only doing what's necessary.
I
here.
can't find on the internet him taking a jump shot. There's one clip that it's labeled as a jump shot, but it's clearly just a hook.
It's a hook shot from the free throw line.
Yeah,
He makes it.
It's just always one hand on the ball.
But
in
his
a
free
shooting
throws
motion.
look
Like George Mikan.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like the ball doesn't look awkward coming out of his hands in the free throws.
70% I'm seeing from the line.
What's that going to look like, Zach Edey versus DJ Burns?
Look at us talking basketball.
What is it going to look
Taco
like?
Fall versus
Oops,
that
guys.
kid in high school.
Oh,
Remember that one?
Yeah.
The little round kid just looking up like, what the hell am I
I think
supposed to do?
DJ Burns is going to look a hell of a lot smaller than we've grown accustomed to by just matching up next with Zach Edey. But it's really hard to discuss NC State in all of this because are they who they've been for the last month? Or are they who they were entering the ACC tournament?
Or
which
is
was
Duke just not really good?
I,
I was unimpressed. by that
McCain
Duke
is
team.
really good.
He's the only player on that team that impressed me, and even then, I see him as like a just a solid off the bench NBA type of player. But that happened to be their best player, their most smartest player, toughest
jumper.
guy, good jumper, gets to the rim on occasion, hits free throws. Like their best player, but not impressed with anybody else. I've been trying to see what all the hubbub was about Filipowski coming into Duke, and I still haven't seen it.
all right, you don't want to talk basketball anymore. I was trying to really ride the March Madness wave. It's a special time.
We've written it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel good about this.
Yeah.
I'm excited about tonight. Baseball's back too. This is a fun time in sports. It's sneaky. I know March with the March Madness, like this time of year is kind of crapped on, but this couple weeks we have right here with MLB starting. Did MLB get anyone else? Because I'm a sucker for the first couple weeks of MLB. Like you really want to check back with me in a couple weeks to see if it really has me. But over the week, I mean, the Marlins stink. The Marlins stink.
Marlins are bad, but I mean, shadows. as you know, they can just be a nightmare to deal with. Why? If we bought a roof, just keep it closed the entire time. Why would we open up a roof?
I mean, Jazz complaining about it after he hit a grand slam was a little odd.
I can make an argument that he was not in the shadows yet. I'm not. This is not me defending the quote.
You're
but
ready for this argument, weren't
he
you?
was not in the shadows when he hit that grand slam. He was standing in shadows, but the ball was not going through shadows.
Sounds like you just said he was in shadows.
Well, he was standing. If you look at it, the shadows are there. He is covered by shadows, but his sight line is not covered by shadows.
That's actually
quite
the
yet.
trickiest
That's
spot
the part.
for a hitter, where the ball is not in the shadows, but you are, and you have that contrast. Like, it's tough.
No, the tougher part is when the ball goes through shadows.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right. So the ball didn't go through shadows at all.
Oh, really?
Shadow.
Well, then what the hell is he talking about?
He was talking about this is the problem. So the quote
He was
Jeremy
nervous
has-
in his head that the shadows were creeping.
for those who
Jeremy
don't
has
know,
the shadow beat covered.
For those who don't know, Jazz Chisholm Jr. There's a quote circulating that he essentially was blaming the shadows for the lack of offensive performance. He was saying that
In a high-scoring game.
that the Marlins ordinarily keep their roof closed. They're not used to playing with the type of shadows that come through it at Lone Depot Park. I remember last year, I think it was the Diamondbacks, I can't remember which team, could have been the Phillies, that complained that the shadows at Lone Depot Park were a literal danger to the players, that's how stark they were. So what Jazz was asked about is why the Marlins struggled so much against the Pirates relievers in particular. And so what he was saying is that later in the game, as the shadows were creeping and they've got guys that are throwing 100 out of the pen, that was the issue. So what everybody pointed at was, Jazz, you hit a grand slam in this game. What are you doing complaining offensively? What I would tell you is the shadows were not affecting him yet in that at-bat, and I actually think that what Jazz was trying to do there was not make an excuse for himself, who played pretty well this weekend, but kind of take some pressure off of his teammates, who all struggled so much offensively.
Ooh, good teammate.
What a stand-up guy.
Jeremy
I'm just-
Taché,
who's-
shadow correspondent.
Who makes the decision to open the roof? Like, who's the actual decision maker on that? Is it Skip?
No, it's not Skip. I don't think. I'm not sure what the answer is there. I think the preference is, if there's good weather, they keep the roof open.
It was a beautiful weekend.
That's the default.
That's why you have a retractable
Right.
roof.
Well, they know in a couple months there's no shot because it's going to be so hot.
Exactly.
They're like, if we can get a couple in here
No, that's
early
the
in
premise.
the season.
That's the premise, is if you can avoid rain, which you can still this early in the year, and you can avoid the type of heat that you're going to get in the middle of July, you're going to keep the roof open. Jazz is not wrong that they don't normally play with the shadows, but that is a really horrible excuse considering the fact that your own reliever struggled so much. It's not like the Pirates were ripping the ball. That was more about the Marlins not throwing strikes. But, I mean, you can't come out here after an 0-4 start and blame the shadows.
Is there a softer explanation in sports than the shadows are a danger to
great.
the
Don't-
players?
it was don't disrespect, man.
I couldn't
Come
see
on
it.
now.
It's just
Shadows
hard to
are
hit.
important.
That's
100-mile-an-hour fastball, dude, you need to see clearly.
Right. Sun's in a
the
different position.
100-mile-an-hour fastball is a scary thing, not the shadow.
Just like in the NBA,
Well,
if there
right.
was like one light off in the somewhere, they'd be like, NBA players would be freaking out if there was one light on the court that was off.
So our oldest game, and we haven't figured out how to deal with the shadows.
Well, they're trying to do this thing with roofs and
what we do in the shadows.
retractable.
Yeah.
I
The
do
whole
want to,
dome situation,
even though we've
yeah.
covered this quite well, I do want to hear Jazz for himself, because the quote in it, when you see it in black and white, it does kind of give off kind of like a sore loser vibe. But contextually, let's see what kind of tone was adjacent to this.
What's made, I guess, the Pirates bullpen so challenging this series?
That we couldn't see. That's all. I feel like the shadows was we're not used to playing shadows. We normally play inside every day, you know. So when we get a shadow for 3 of the 4 games at home for the first time of the season, it's kind of hard to adjust to, you know. We're used to the roof being closed and being able to see every at-bat. It's kind of tough to see when it's black out there and facing a guy throwing 101, you know.
Man, he was quick and ready with that. He was
Kind of
ready.
that seems he's not
He
emotional
clearly was
there.
just frustrated
Like, I
about
kind
it.
of believe him. Like, that. Honestly, listening to the clip now, I'm kind of like, all right, let's not have the shadows
You
anymore.
think his former captain is somewhere in L.A. cracking up about this?
Absolutely.
Oh, Miguel Rojas.
Yeah, that much is clear. Miggy absolutely loved that quote.
Can't wait for him to go on the road in the open air stadium.
Well, it's just the Pittsburgh Pirates don't play here. They had to play in the same exact conditions too. And I know that you just got swept by them, but you realize it's like it's
the same game for both teams. It is. That's the
very
part
much
that's
is the
frustrating.
same game. I know in the earlier
It'd
part
be
of the
like
game,
if they
the
complained about
shadows
the
creep.
3-point line in the women's game. It's like you both had to deal with it.
They didn't complain nearly as much as Jazz did. I got perhaps the single most concerning IG targeted ad of my life. And
You had a lot.
I've had a lot of concerning ones, but this one takes the cake because it would appear that this ad that I got, the product itself has one sole purpose, and it is to smuggle cocaine into music festivals. The IG ad, I'm going to describe it as vividly as I
Go on,
can.
I'm listening.
So it's this dude on the sand and at a beach somewhere, and he takes out what looks like one of those new IG wallets that got me, certainly. And he takes this thing out, and he puts this wallet in the sand, and there's all these little holes, and he smooths it out, and you can barely see any of the sand at all in this little thin aluminum case, and then pops up a straw that he just takes out and just puts in the individual holes. Doesn't do anything with it.
Doesn't put the straw in his mouth, does he?
He doesn't put the straw in his mouth. And so it shows its durability. It shows that, look, none of this sand will fall out of this case.
That's important. The sand doesn't fall out.
And also, we had to showcase that it does have this straw, and it's not for slurping up some sand. The whole purpose of this product is to smuggle cocaine into places.
Are we Jason Whitlocking ourselves? Because I have been a victim of the ad where it's clearly a grinder, but they're doing like fresh herbs or like food or they're cheese in it.
Coffee
and then they roll
grinder.
it into a little piece of paper and then here's how you get your cheese cigarette. And it's like, wait a second, why am I going to smoke cheese? And so they just
Mike,
cover
couldn't
it.
also
That's
yours
the good
be
stuff.
for
Smoked Gouda's
Some
pretty good.
Gouda. Yeah, Gouda.
somebody that needs to, they're at a restaurant and they need to bring
Spicy
sugar
Gouda.
for some coffee.
Yeah, it could be for condiments, and I
Yeah.
feel like I should have
Condiments
seen
in the nose.
I should have seen that application, but I also get targeted ads for mushrooms like crazy, like lion's mane.
Good stuff.
I've tried
Turkey
the
tail.
mushroom
Turkey
gummies.
tail.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Like it's supposed to be like for mental clarity. It went like 2 months with it. I'm pretty sure I'm the same amount of mental clarity.
I can't tell. There are times which I do. The irony's not lost on me where I forget to take my ginkgo, and I don't really see it. I started taking ginkgo when I felt like I was experiencing COVID brain, but really, what's happening with me, and you can tell by my purchases, is I'm aging. Whether it be a hat that I can wear in the pool, whether it be for mental clarity, whether it be for
A Coke wallet.
a shirt that looks better because of its stripe pattern on someone of my size than other people. Like the dudes tugging at their shirt in the IG ads are always getting me.
Oh,
like,
dude,
look at
that's
this
me.
shirt. Like, oh,
BLYT, whatever those shirts or something.
Oh, Built. Oh, dude, I'm a big Built. I'm wearing Built right now. I'm built by Built.
Dude, that's all me. They're just like, hey, here's a shirt that won't make you look fat.
I know.
Look at the side view.
No one's ever going to believe me with this, and it's a losing battle. And I know it's April Fool's, but I'm not joshing you. I've never done cocaine. The whole idea of cocaine scares me. Putting something in my nose and snorting it. Look, if cocaine came in a pill form, which I'm sure it has, but I've never seen it around, nor have I been offered it. Anytime I get offered cocaine, I say no, thank you, very quickly. I don't do cocaine. I've never done cocaine. I only like the way that cocaine smells. I've also never done mushrooms in the conventional sense. If someone's handed me a chocolate before, I've taken it and I didn't notice anything. I've never done like, all right, guys, we're shrooming.
Is this a drug confession episode? What are we doing?
No, I'm just being
you're next.
honest with you. Like I'm honest about my gummies. You know I love Miller Lite. I've been honest about where I stand on certain vices, but I'm not a shroom guy. I'm not a psychedelic guy. And the last few years where it's become a more regular part of the conversation and the people that are touting these things are precisely the types of people I don't want to take their advice on these things from.
Like shamans?
Like Dan. Or
Jake Plummer.
Or Jake Plummer, even though he seems like the most
He's locked
grounded.
in.
But
He's locked in.
like Aaron Rodgers, like the guy has just gone totally bizarre in the public eye. And you could draw, like, there's a line of demarcation when he started being honest about his regimen. And it's not the greatest endorsement. And I don't know if it's because of the work I do on this show. I don't understand how I'm getting targeted for these ads specifically.
So you're not talking to us. You're talking to your Instagram right now. You're trying to change it up.
Yeah,
Change the
I don't it's not even like I don't go searching for it. I've never purchased any of these products, so I don't really necessarily understand how it's been on my algorithm. Certainly, there has to have been something in my search pattern. Maybe it's trying to constantly look up Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee clips that I'm getting targeted for these ads. I'm not going to stop drinking. I am a social drinker. I like drinking.
I hear you.
But I don't like my face getting so red after I drink. And I don't like getting fatter as I get older. Now, I've slimmed down some, but nowhere near to where I want to be. I'm at that age range now where I see pictures taken from like 7 months ago, and I'm like, man, I had it cooking back then. And I think it's like a bygone era. Like, you should have seen me just 7 months ago. I'm at that place right now where I feel myself aging. I took this medication. It did wonders for me, but it also put on 50 pounds.
This feels like a therapy session. Tony, what were you on when you saw God?
Sober, baby.
Really?
Just clean, just water. That's it.
But there are people that espouse these virtues of stopping drinking, and I've had friends in my circle. You know, someone needs to do a stand-up routine about how, like, around age 38, every friend group has at least like 3 folks that have decided they're going to stop drinking for a little bit.
I'm confused, Mike. What are you trying to find here?
I've been looking at drinking alternatimes,
drinking alternatives.
Seltzer water.
I've been trying to
That's the big one I'm always told.
I'm exploring my options. I know that there have been great health benefits from it. I've looked up fasting. So I don't know if that's how my algorithm. I'm just talking this out with you guys. I'm trying to see how I'm being targeted for mushrooms. I kind of understand based on my search history. The Coke wallet, I have no clue how that got in there.
That one, I think they were fishing for you.
Well,
you live in Miami.
You also bought the other wallet. You said they
I
got
bought
you
the
on a
Ridge
wallet, so
but
you're in their algorithm of like, this guy likes wallets.
There's a difference.
See how far he'll go.
About one wallet.
I've only bought one wallet,
Big wallet
from
guy.
Instagram, and it was several years ago.
But they see you on concert pages. They see you looking up
Hey,
stuff.
but
They're
yeah,
like, this
you
guy
make
likes
jokes.
to party.
They hear
we know
your
this guy
jokes
likes
here.
Miller Lite.
Yeah, no, I think what you're getting at it might be it. Bought a wallet once. Am always posting about concerts.
They're fishing.
What about the rejoin with the? That's probably your phone's here.
My character that I portray on the air loves cocaine.
A lot of
think your phone
chuggy
knows
group
the
chats. Like your subconscious is dealing a lot with like chuggies. And,
Yeah.
You know, that's not drugs, but I mean, alcohol's
Yeah.
a drug.
Roy, have you ever been targeted for a Coke wallet?
No, not yet. Even though I'm like you, I bought a wallet as well. Well, you did.
As the pants get slimmer and slimmer, well, the fit, certainly not the waistline. As the fits get slimmer and slimmer, I want a wallet that's not got a bulge out there, and also it's helped my posture by putting the wallet in different pockets.
We're actually
and having
going
it more.
the opposite way now. Baggy's back, baby.
Yeah, I've seen that.
is.
I don't like the baggy fit. I got to be honest. I think people look like David Byrne with these big puffy suits. I don't like. NSYNC
We're
look
back
good.
to the yachts.
Yeah, but NSYNC look good when they do their comeback photo shoot. But I just can't stop looking at
What's going to happen when we get to the mid-aughts style coming back? Because that was just a mishmash of a bunch of horrible styles altogether. Like, are we going to have remember the Kanye
What's
sunglasses?
A mishmash?
Is that not a word?
A mishmash.
Hodgepodge?
It's a hodgepodge.
Mishmash?
Mishmash.
Yeah.
Fine. All right.
What was Scotty
like a
Barnes wearing the other
hodgepodge.
day? Did you guys see that? Do we have any video of that? He was wearing, you were talking about a loose fit. Like, he was wearing some large pink bell bottoms, I want to say, with maybe some platforms. Scotty Barnes is
I think
an interesting character.
I'm not this big fashionista. Again, most of my my wardrobe is now just, oh, that fat guy's tugging at that shirt and it seems to be stretchy and the nipples look fine in that. Let me do that.
I think my algo is all caught up on my horniness when it comes to buying clothes. If you make something look kind of sexy, I feel like I would look great in that. I'm going to buy it. There's several of those. It's not just I look thin in this, but like, maybe some boxers. Never really was a boxer guy, but I was like, I don't know, that guy looks good in those boxers. I feel like I'm going to wear those.
Boxer briefs.
Never looks the same on me.
You see yourself in it, you're like,
broadcast myself in these boxers, but I've seen myself.
If it's funny that my IG algorithm is just like, oh, this guy wants to look thin. He doesn't necessarily want the
be
equipment to get thin and do it himself. He just wants to appear thinner. So we're going to help my guy out over here.
Yeah.
At the start of the pandemic, I was getting all these resistance bands and all that
They
stuff.
did overtime work on those resistance bands.
Oh, dude.
Overtime.
I just see one in my garage. I'm like, you got me good. I worked out twice with this thing. Got me so damn
The
good.
bar was always so tight. Like, you couldn't go to a certain point. You're just, like, doing half-ass squats.
And also the resistance. It's very, like
put this on
we're
your
holding
legs.
on for dear life on this door right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there was one time I was doing chess and I just got smacked by the band in my back, and then I needed to buy something for my IG to make the welt go away. But my IG at targeted ads had specifically been like, all right, let's cut more of these corners.
Yo,
we know what you're about. You don't want to put the work in.
I would subscribe to your IG if it was just you working out. Because I went to his house one time to work him out. Oh, not like that.
No.
We're
I'm
off
saying
my
like
horniness, by the way.
No. I'm saying like Mike getting out there and working on stuff that would inspire people.
No,
I mean,
I'm beefy. I can throw up the plates and stuff. I go to the gym
Don't let him
regularly.
see you run.
But
I've never
cardio
seen
is not
somebody
a
more
part of this.
miserable, like running side by side with this guy.
Important
cardio,
regimen, by the way.
This guy comes to my house as a guest, and his idea to work out is running in the sun.
It was just a warm up. It was just a
The
little
worst.
warm. He's
Just
got a big
wants to-
block.
he wants to
it's
run?
a big block we had to run around.
It was a large block, and I was very, very tired. And we were doing all these lunges. I was so tired after that. I've never invited
That was the
Izzy
warm-up?
back.
Never
I never want to
I
work
never
out with
came
Izzy
back.
ever again.
This is why Chris and I don't hang out as much, because when we first started hanging out, I took him to my trainer, and he said he wanted to lose weight. He's like, this is the worst.
That guy was awesome. Like I should have stuck with it because it was good stuff. It's just hard, man.
I am not actually interested in getting in good
Yeah,
shape.
just wanna
I
look-
just want to appear like I'm in
That's
good
right.
shape.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
Here.
The difference between you and me, Izzy, when buying clothes based off of targeted ads on IG is you see clothes on someone and you're like, that makes him look sexy. And your decision is, I will look equally sexy.
Correct.
Let me buy that. If I see something where I'm like, oh, that looks really good on that guy, my immediate response to that is, well, I won't look that good. I know I won't look that
dude,
good.
there's nothing more depressing than when you get and when you got on IG and it comes in and you put it in and it's just barely hanging over your belly button, and you realize from an IG sizing standpoint, I'm essentially a quadruple XL.
I'm gonna take a picture of this outfit that I have. I've talked about it before. It's just Instagram got me once. It's like this matching pants and button down. It's
man.
flat floral, and it's just something I could never wear. But I tried to buy it, and I've never worn it.
Can we make a bet where you can wear it on the air one
Oh
day?
man,
Please.
it's so embarrassing.
I
It's probably
guarantee
snug
you
at this
probably
point.
rock that thing.
We obsessed over women's basketball. We obsessed over the big meaty men matchup in the Final Four, DJ Burns versus Zach Eddy. And here we are, and UConn is very well positioned to repeat as champs. And they haven't really been tested. And Donovan Clingan is joining us now. Donovan, number one, holy hell, you guys are dominant, and you're a big part of that. And number two, how do you maintain this dominance? I know you guys have had a really impressive season, but over the last two tournaments, you guys haven't come out flat once. You haven't really been tested. And the whole nature of this tournament with just one game sample after one game sample is inevitably you guys are going to come out flat, or you have to find the motivation to win a grinder. And it hasn't happened yet. How have you guys been so sharp now going for two straight tournaments?
Coach Hurley really instills a lot of intensity and fire into us and makes us, stay hungry. He's a competitor. He wants to win so bad, and he reflects that on us, and everyone in this locker room just really wants to go out there and win. We come into practice today, we'll go practice tomorrow, this whole week really, practicing like we haven't won anything, and like there's still a lot on the table, which there is, and everyone realizes what we're really trying to achieve. And you really can't take your foot off the gas for a single second. You're going to get every team's best shot. So you're really just staying hungry, really trying to compete for the highest of accomplishments, and really just staying hungry in practice and sticking together.
Donovan, you already won a championship, so you have these moments, you have these memories or what have you. But that 30-0 run the other night, like within it seemed like you guys were having the most fun I've ever seen a college basketball team have. Can you sort of describe what that run was like and just kind of where it fits into your memories of college so far?
Yeah. I actually had no clue what run we were on. I knew that going into the half, we were up 5. We were playing great defense. Shots weren't falling on the offensive end. And, at halftime, we talked about, sticking to our defensive scripts, just keep doing what we're doing. The shots will fall. And then, in that second half, really just coming off with the defensive intensity, I had that big block in the second half, which led to the dunk on the other end. And I feel like after that, really just the energy within the team just changed, and everyone really was just trying to, just one possession at a time, break the other team and, come out with the win. But that's just one thing about this team is everyone's so unselfish. Everyone, whatever it takes to win, whether that's 0 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds, every single person on this team don't care about their stats. They just care about winning. And, that's why this team's so special.
Your team is certainly special, and you articulated how Dan Hurley motivates you guys, but it is easier to tune out the noise and all that and have this tunnel vision and have success when you're actually not part of the national conversation, which is wild to me. All that you guys are poised to repeat, and yet the intention, and great players in their own right, the attention may be going to other teams. Are you guys bothered by that, or it's just that's UConn basketball and it helps us maintain this program? That's how we like it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that keeps us hungry. People are going against us, people are rooting against us, and they want to see someone else win, and we hear that, we see that, and that just gives us a little more fire, a little more energy just to go out there and prove people wrong. And I feel like we've done that all year. We had a target on our back, coming off as defending national champions, the whole season, that we got every team's best shot. And people still didn't rank us where we felt we should have been ranked. And so we just really just stay hungry, and really just try to make people quiet.
What do you think about Clingan?
I love it.
You like that nickname?
Yeah, I love it.
Doesn't really roll off the tongue. What have you had other nicknames in your career, and this one's just as easily the best one because you've just had bad ones?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this one really took off just after last year. People just called me like DC and stuff around the locker room. Really haven't had any big nicknames or anything, but Clingan is just turned into something big.
Now you're a Giant, and with that, and you don't have the pro travel accommodations. UConn treats their players very well, but you're still taking some commercial flights that are blocked off, and you're having to squeeze into tight situations. Can you explain the day in, day out grind of having to be this college basketball player that is traveling from city to city in a world that isn't necessarily made to consider 7'2" people?
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 trips have been not the most fun. But the bus ride to New York, the bus ride to Boston, the buses are definitely not the best for me in my size. It's definitely more of a tight squeeze. Can't get comfortable, with those 3-4 hour rides.
What's the go-to? How do you sit? How do you get comfortable?
I try to, lay across the row and put my legs across the aisle into someone else's seat, but then that's bothering someone else. So, really just constantly moving and never finding that comfortable spot. But planes are much easier. We're very blessed enough to have charter flights to have the first class seats and the extra leg room, which is nice. So that 5-hour flight to Phoenix shouldn't be too bad.
All right, that's good. I am a little worried about the buses, but it's a college basketball team. There's a bunch of people that feel uncomfortable, but not quite a lot of 7'2" people. So what about in everyday life, not just travel? What is we all have seen throughout this run of yours that there are a lot of benefits to being 7'2", but what is something that we take for granted as someone that is not 7'2" that is annoying to you in everyday life?
Clothes. I try to find stuff that fits me, and you're searching for hours. I got long legs and a smaller torso, so it's hard to find the pants in my length. I feel like I hit my head 20 times a day, and but that at the same time keeps me from getting concussions because I feel like I've hit my head so much that I got to hit my head really hard to knock me out. But there's a lot of people around campus, a lot of people around stores stopping me for pictures and stuff. I like that. I appreciate the support, the love. There's a lot of benefits for being 7'2" on the basketball court, and there's a lot of drawbacks, off the court.
Who do you get because like now you're getting a little famous with this run and stuff, but like I imagine, do you ever get like you're somebody, but who are you type stuff?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, like really when we travel more than than when we're in Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut, so I feel like I have a pretty big fan base in the state of Connecticut. But when you travel out of state, I'm sure people in Phoenix that don't really know what's going on out there will be like, "Oh, it looks like you're."
Yeah, it's Mike Muscala over there.
Yeah, he looks like you're a basketball player. What team do you play for? It's like stuff like that sometimes that I'll get.
It's got to be annoying. Like, you must play basketball. Yeah, I must, and I'm also quite good at it. You're just stopping me because I'm a giant. That's all you're doing right there. You just have to talk to me because I have. Surely at this size, I must be somebody.
Yeah. I get that all the time.
What is the best thing about being outside of basketball? What is the biggest advantage of being as tall as you are?
Oof. I can reach a lot of things. No, I mean, sometimes I like just seeing what's going on and over crowds and stuff.
Hovering above the crowd.
Does it stink to go to a concert because you're worried about the person behind you and you're like, I get this all the time?
Or is it awesome?
Let me know if I'm in your way. Is it awesome to be going to a concert, or is it a little annoying?
A little bit of both. People stop you and try to get pictures and stuff. But at the same time, you don't get, no one's in your way and you get to see everything. You don't miss a thing.
But you're at like a movie theater and I'm just like, there's a poor kid sitting behind you. And it's just like, yeah, sorry, buddy.
Nah,
Donovan, we mentioned those, the Final Four, the big meaty men in this Final Four. We talked about a little bit about how there isn't quite the place in the NBA for some of these big guys. I wonder what the big guys like yourself talk about. What does it take for you guys to feel like, hey, I'm going to succeed in the NBA today as a big man? What kind of big man has to succeed at that level?
Yeah, really just being as elite as possible in the pick and roll game, defending the rim at a high level. Now with how the game has changed, being able to step out behind the 3-point line and knock down a three here and there. Rebounding the ball, defense, just really moving your feet. And, because now you're switching on to guards and, guards are speedy, fast, so really just trying to move your feet. And, one thing I really thought about, to myself is, my team needs me for a certain, needs me to play a certain way to be successful. And, whenever my time comes to move on to the next level, you work and try to expand your game into many other ways. And, you work your game towards how the team needs you. You know what I mean? Just right now, I'm just trying to do whatever I can to help my team win and, whatever way that is. And, so, however your team needs you to play to win, that's what I'm willing to do.
DC, I spent a little time in Connecticut. In West Hartford, are you an elbow room guy or a bar taco guy?
Ooh, bar taco.
Attaboy.
I love the question.
No, he knows. He knows. He knows what the deal is. He's been out there at the bar taco. Come on, he knows.
Yeah, attaboy.
DC, we were talking earlier before you got here about how we've got on IG ads, and I imagine your IG ads are all targeted because you're very tall, and it's not the easiest thing getting close, as you mentioned. Have you got by IG? Have you ordered something and it came in the mail, and you're like, "There's just no goddamn way I can fit in this thing"?
I feel like definitely sometimes, some brands run a little bit smaller and, I'm like, oh, this thing's, this is nice sweatshirt. And, I'll order it and I get it. And I'm like, I don't even know if this will fit my sister. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Someone needs to do something about this. IG's getting away with this stuff. I maybe have a 40% success rate on clothes that I buy off of IG.
I got Donovan trying on a romper and being like, this is not anything what I thought it would be.
Yeah, then there's those. Like maybe you've had, maybe you're out and maybe your confidence level is different on a certain night. And you're like, when did I ever think that I could pull this off? Like a tie-dye pair of sunglasses? Who am I? I'm not Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm 39 years old, and this is not something that you run into. But why? I have a wife that loves me. Who am I doing this for? Have you ever asked yourself, who am I doing this for?
No. I mean, just like are you talking about the fashion?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's also you play in a sport where fashion is just so paramount and people try to establish their brands. And so maybe you do something a little outside of your comfort zone because you're trying to, establish the DC brand. And then you realize, like, why did I do this? This came in the mail. It barely fits me.
Yeah, I'm pretty I'm pretty basic, man. Sweatshirt, sweatpants. That's the way to go for me.
Donovan, that look on your face is confusion. It's because Mike does these things. He has therapy with the guests. He talks his way through these things. This is for Mike's benefit.
I don't think I'm certainly not in the middle of a midlife crisis because it's been happening for a while. And maybe it's happening a little too early. John Mayer famously called it a quarter life crisis. Maybe I'm having multiple ones of that, but you'll see. Let me just say, you will see. And the IG ads are only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Are you a Frank Pepe's guy, DC?
What is
I've
that?
had it once. It's been a while.
What's your New Haven slice of choice?
I'm cheese. I mean,
he is a basic guy. He just told you.
No. The place.
Place?
Sally's?
Ooh, I like Sally's.
Okay. All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck. It seems as though you're going to be doing all right for yourself here in a couple of years, and you could just maybe buy entire clothing departments as opposed to just getting targeted IG ads. I'm very happy for your success, even though I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. And in retrospect, that's a team that's challenged somehow, even though you blew them out, is the team that's challenged you the most in the NCAA tournament. I hope for your sake it continues to be a flat track. And I gotta say, the bracket lays out pretty nicely. If you guys beat Alabama, do what you're supposed to do, you're going to be going up against a big man that you can flash your skill set and set yourself apart from. And I'm sure just by the looks of you, you're kind of eager to get that spotlight and have people talk about you and what Coach Hurley is doing over there. Thank you so much for your time and continued success, sir.
Thank you, Clingan.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, man.
It is nearing the time to update our wildly popular March Sadness tournament. This has gotten over like gangbusters. Everyone loves this April Fool's. March Sadness is presented by Get Your Guide. Discover over 100,000 unforgettable travel experiences in the U.S. and around the world at getyourguide.com. It's our very easy to follow March Sadness tournament. It is a multimedia affair. There's brackets of songs and still images and Greg Cody rants saying nice asshole to Jonathan Zaslow. So very easy to follow format if you just pay attention, folks. This is very clearly your fault as to why this is not universally beloved. It is not ours. We did right. Chris, what do we have so far for the tournament? I mean, the real tournament is in the Final Four, so we've got some elite matchups to cover here.
We will be getting towards the Final Four by the end of this week. Today we are doing our second round matchups in the Song region. 1 seed, Puka Nakua, which is of course this monster.
His name is Cooper, good at running curls, but when his hammy got a tear, he saw Puka standing there, his blade diminished. Hostile take over. Nakua hopped into the car. McVay has maybe found a star, and then Matt Stafford threw him 25 and 2. Oh, there's a brand new kid in town out of BYU. They call him Puka.
So that's that one. That's the 1 seed. That's just going to be tough to beat.
It's a real earworm, honestly. It's one of the better songs that we've ever done because it's just so darn catchy. I'm really happy that's still alive, you're telling me?
That's alive, and that is facing our 9 seed by Jeremy Taché, Bills.
At first we started out real cool. Starting the season with a 9-3 record. You're getting comfortable, ain't doing things like running the ball, changing up Mike McDaniel. The offense started struggling. Tyreek is faster than a car. But it don't matter if you can't get him the ball and have the running game to ever have consistency. Hold on to that Titans lead, and now you're losing week to week. Struggling, interception on my brother. Quarterback, why haven't I found another? A baller. When times get hard, I need someone to scramble around instead of a pocket passer getting shoved to the ground. Can you beat the Bills? Can you beat the Buffalo Bills?
Exceptional work, Jeremy.
It
but
is,
you're going up against UConn.
No, it's it.
I have a slight criticism of the Puka Nakua song, which, by the way,
please criticize it.
I had me and my ski friends, that's the whitest thing I've ever said, singing all week while we were on vacation, but Puka Nakua. But the opening to the song, the first few words of the song, his name is Cooper.
Yeah.
His name is Cooper.
Yeah,
good at running curls.
Yeah, and he mentions Tua. Look, it's a little all over, but it's all about the hook. By the way, if you and your ski friends ever get together, I do know a wallet that you can buy off of Instagram. We got the Wrong Song coming up next, Chris Cody.
4 seed Wrong Song.
You are so wrong.
That note.
Let it play. What are you doing? Let it play.
Got her up, so let it go. Never let everybody know you're wrong, 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 wrong.
One thing that we didn't mention is we talk about the baby part, but that go is crazy.
So long. I've got him in his home office, like just all by himself.
Yeah, from a singing perspective, it has the advantage over the next song, but the next song is a total banger.
First-person shooter?
And
it is going up against 5-seed Sports Whisperer.
Psst. Bill, it's Tom. Listen up. Listen, Belichick, let me whisper in your ear. Tell you something that you might like to hear. You had a nice career, but the end looking sad. Mind if I tell you about this plan I had? Mahomes been gaining on me way too fast. Surely as a coach that you should get past. I can play at least another year or two. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm calling up Woody and we're going to the Jets. Twice a year we can beat the Patriots. We're kicking both Salah and Aaron to the curb. I'm calling up Gronk and we're flipping up the bird. Never really wanted Greg Olsen's spot. Wanted him to know how much cash I got. You needed me, Bill. I'll always be the boss. After we're done, you can coach lacrosse. You better listen up.
I like this one. You know why? Because that's us at our roots. Listener-driven content. We got a lot of ringers there. You got Greg Cody, you got Jeremy. These are people on the show. Eddy and Streeter, God bless them. They're pros at this. To have listener-driven, user-created content in this tournament, that's an homage to the roots of this show. I'm going to root for the Sports Whisperer there. But Eddy, a very talented vocalist, as you can see from this number 2 overall seed.
This next matchup is my favorite of this bracket because it involves, I'm going to play it first, our 2 seed, We're All Going to Die, but I enjoy who this is going up against. But first, 2 seed, We're All Going to Die.
Die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. The sky seems to be falling.
This one's a classic.
Yeah, but in terms of vocal gulf in vocal skill, they don't get much wider than Eddy versus Taylor.
It's a 3. The crowd goes into a delusion. Winning in the playoffs, not an illusion. It's a heat check, he's on fire. But let it fly. Saw the contract, they said he was overpaid, man. Said that he was overrated and that we had no plan. They were wrong and I am beaming. Hear the Mecca say, carry us Jalen Brunson. Comes up clutch, that's why we won. New York knows you are the...
We just showed Taylor on the screen. I'm glad he's okay. It's been a rough couple of days for Taylor. Not just UNC.
Confidence between Eddy and Taylor.
That song is going to advance to the next
Taylor
round.
had like a 60-point effort recently, right? He did like on 50 shots.
44 shots.
Yeah, but
that song is almost as good as Hotline to the End Zone.
And he also got knocked out on a buzzer beater last night by Shane Gillis-Alexander. Just a terrible
He scored
weekend.
60 points and lost.
I mean, what can't he do at this point? The next song I really like, a 3 seed, Dan the Ramblin' Man.
Lord Dan was born a rambling man, talking to guests and doing the best he can. But when it's time for greed feeding, no one understands why like Dan the Rambling Man.
Jeremy, this is a great song, not just because it's catchy, not just because you knock it out of the park, but also it's a device that we can use forevermore. It's a part of show lore now, so a classic by any stretch of the imagination. The next song needs a little bit more explanation. The next song is when Chris Cody thought Franco Harris, famous Pittsburgh sports icon, Italian, was actually Irish.
Real
and he
fans
thought
don't need to know.
that it wasn't Franco. He thought it was Frank, space, O''Harris.
Franco Harris, pride and joy of the Emerald Isle. Franco Harris, give him half a yard, he'll take a mile. And if Terry Bradshaw knows what's up, he'll audible once again. 'Cause you hand it off to O'Harris, and he scores it every time.
was thinking about this the other day. I did a whole episode of Around the Horn as Conor McGregor with an Irish accent. I don't think I could do that again in 2024. Like, I don't think I could get away with that. People would yell at me.
Is that your most controversial?
Gotta be sad if that was my
Halloween
most
costume?
No,
but
not controversy.
No, I mean probably Cardi B because
Yeah.
the second men saw me in that, they were like, "That's not it," and I was like, "That's exactly the response I wanted."
Yeah. I don't know if you guys were glued to your TVs this weekend. Sounds like we all were. And I know it was opening weekend and March Madness was crescendoing, but I was locked into the UFL, as you can imagine. And I want to give you guys, Jeremy, it looks like you missed it.
I was moving.
He groaned
I didn't have the
loudly. I don't
time.
know what that was about.
It wasn't me. No, it came from a
football
different
league?
direction.
So I have some problems with the UFL. Number one, that it's the UFL and not the XFL. I hate that we decided to keep the
That
UFL.
is a bad idea.
Different vibes.
Oh, it's a merger, right?
Different. So the XFL and the USFL merged, and they decided to take the moniker the UFL, which was also a fairly recent failed spring football league. It's pretty damning, and Daryl Johnson, I think, has some of the blame here because they decided because the XFL. It was actually a good couple of days for the XFL before the games got going because the NFL voted on adopting the XFL kickoff. You know who's not using the XFL kickoff?
The UFL.
The UFL. That is just bewildering to me that anybody that's seen that kickoff, including the NFL, which is pretty married to its tradition, decided, oh, this is exciting. This is a great innovation in the sport. And for the UFL just to decide that it didn't want to do that when the NFL basically king-maked it. So it was a huge bummer. And also, as a passionate XFL fan, to be totally dominated by the USFL in these matchups. We had the matchups of the Stallions versus the Renegades and the two recent champions. The XFL, or what's left of the XFL, took a big fat L over the weekend. And I got to tell you, last year, there was so much conversation. You couldn't get a sip of water over here, over this communal watering hole.
Was the group chat buzzing? Was your group chat buzzing?
People left in the dead of night. We had 2 people leave. I'm telling you, the XFL captured.
Does that become your saddest chat?
No! There was a 64-yard game winner in the UFL, and no one's talking about it.
Field goal?
I'm starting to get back into pro basketball, too. It's getting to be that time. Jimmy Butler told me it is that time, and then he decided to take in the Miami Open and publicly flirt with Camila Cabello.
No, I've heard your take on the NBA.
It's not great.
Assessing it.
It's not great, but now is the time where you jump back in. Penicillin for the Miami Heat arrived in the shape of the Portland Trail Blazers. God, does Terry Rozier hate the Portland Trail Blazers. 60-point victory, the 9th largest margin of victory. This is how bad Portland was. They made Miami look like they had a great offense.
Miami had their highest scoring game of the year, tied with one game. I forget which one it was earlier.
Franchise
in the year.
record for assists.
Franchise record for assists. They also, what's really crazy is it's the 9th largest margin of victory in NBA history, and the Blazers this year have a worse loss. They're the first team ever to lose multiple games by 60 points in a season.
I don't.
They're one of the worst.
I was going to say I don't want to revel
in
in the failings of that front office, but I'm really enjoying this one.
It's fun.
I'm really enjoying this one. We all know what happened there, and what the media especially tried to make happen there. And okay, congratulations, you ruined what was a pretty cool.
Do you think
sports market?
When Cronin right now is looking in his mirror this morning, is he admitting that he screwed it up, or is he coming up with excuses on why it didn't pan out? Like,
Their argument's going to
be
be the whole way through that they got the assets to where they'll be able to choose the young players that they want in those picks. But when you look at some of the players that they probably would have gotten in a move, I mean, we've been through this multiple times during the regular season, but it's pretty amazing to see how bad it's going in Portland.
And the picks, to be fair, because I am going to sideswipe Cronin one more time. To be fair, the picks were a part of this conversation, but people were saying, look at the players that they got, Time Lord and Ayton, and look, they'd allow them to build on the fly, and then develop these younger players that they have on their roster, and look at these picks. People have already pivoted just to picks. That's a losing hand, my friend.
And it started off with, hey, we have the number 2 pick in this draft. We're going to have a superstar. Scoot Henderson does not appear to be a superstar. So all of those things seem to be a bad combination for Cronin. And that's the worst possible scenario for him, because the one guy who dug in his feet and said, I'm not going to give in to my superstar, and this happens. And I literally had, I'm not going to say who, but someone on TV that I share a screen with laugh when I mentioned that it's going to come back to bite them because they didn't do right by Damian Lillard. And whether you want to call this karma, whatever, that's all nonsense. But I do think that they were making poor decisions. They made a poor decision with Dame, and it just goes to show you, hey, maybe that's just a pattern here. Maybe they're not making all the best decisions over in Portland.
It might be one of those situations, though, for Miami and Portland where there are no winners here. Maybe Damian Lillard ends up being the winner. I just saw that they finally broke their winless streak without him over there. Milwaukee over the last month has settled in, looking like they can maybe be a threat again in that conference. But I don't necessarily think that there are winners here. One interesting storyline that has just popped up on the news feed is Shams has mentioned that Joel Embiid, who's been out, and as he's been out, the Sixers are now hovering around that 8 seed, looking play-in worthy. He's going to be coming back, it appears, this week in time for that matchup with the Miami Heat, Jeremy.
Yeah, he plays the Oklahoma City Thunder on Tuesday. That's where they're projecting that Embiid could come back. If not, it would be Thursday against the Miami Heat down here in Miami, and that's a huge matchup. The Heat currently are a game and a half ahead of Philly for the 7-8 matchup, so obviously you want home court in that first play-in because the winner gets to play Damian Lillard and the Milwaukee Bucks, which is obviously not an easy matchup, but at the moment, you'd rather play the Bucks than the Celtics.
Yeah, Izzy, I want to ask you what you make of the Eastern Conference right now, in that you have Boston, who essentially has nothing to play for at the moment, except for trying to try out Porzingis on switches on the perimeter. And there's a chance that in the first round they're going to get a test. And I don't think you can eliminate Atlanta, given what we've seen recently out of the matchup problems that they present for Boston. In the first round, they may get tested right away with either Philadelphia, Atlanta, Miami. I guess you can throw Indiana if they get some losses this week into that mix. That's not going to be easy.
No. And I know we all try to talk about this here, and you got the flames on the side of your face. We talk about it in the context of the Heat. But the first thing I thought of is Joel Embiid as an 8 seed for the Boston Celtics. They've got to be thinking to themselves, we're probably going to complete this great regular season, and you've got to be kidding me. I might have to face Embiid, Giannis, and then maybe Jimmy Butler in that mix somewhere, and it's going to be miserable for them. They're going to be tested with that same sort of, hey, you guys chokers from the very first round if they face Joel Embiid, who's had, a couple of weeks under his belt.
Is it worth it for the 76ers for Embiid to come back? And I know speaking as a Heat side of things, right? We don't want him back. Number one, you don't want to have to face Joel Embiid, but more speaking as someone who just saw an 8 seed make a run, it would be foolish to say that the 76ers have no chance.
Right,
but is it worth it for them to bring him back and try to make this run?
I think so, and I'll tell you why. First of all, they've had so many years where they've had opportunities and whether he's broken down at the key time. Now you're getting him back, and you would assume, hey, he's not going to break down again. But I think part of the reason is he was having an historical offensive season. No, go, Chris.
I just need to jump in here.
I cannot believe what Tony
just annoys.
Of course you bring Embiid back. Look what happened last year with the Heat. The 8 seed can absolutely make a run in this playoff no matter what.
I thought Jeremy sounded like an idiot there.
Last
I can't believe
year,
he held that opinion.
Last year, Tony said the Heat should tank for some pick for Wembanyama. The 1%
That's exactly what
chance
he said.
they had at getting Wembanyama.
It was less,
and
it was
now
like
he's
half a
sitting here
Hey,
acting
Wembanyama
like
looks pretty good.
32
They
last
weren't
night.
going to get him. Or whatever.
Are you prepared to take that?
I just can't believe Jeremy's arguing for Joel Embiid to not return.
I want to make it abundantly clear. I don't hold that opinion and was positioning that question just to see what
the conviction sounded pretty
Is your
strong.
best player,
Yeah,
do you not want him on
the best
team?
version of
Hey
Joel
guys,
Embiid?
do you want your best player
Is
to
he
join?
rushing back, I think, is
right.
what Jeremy's asking.
My question would be, if you're a team that already probably didn't have a chance of making a deep run even when Embiid was healthy, then you're looking at bringing him back now.
I mean,
Well, they already made the decision on when he's coming back based on what the treatment plan was, what surgery they decided on, whatever. So the fact that he's able to come back now is not the decision. The decision was made before.
Right,
Were
exactly.
you doing an April Fool's thing? I don't.
What was that?
And when you want, you're gonna come in as a 7 or 8 seed, potentially maybe a 6 seed, and you're going to have no pressure in the world, and you're going to have the best player in the conference who is having an historical offensive year with no pressure on himself, just going to be like, hey, I'm just going to go for 70 every game. I have no idea how that's going to end, but I would be nervous as hell facing that.
I don't disagree with that at all, and the space that I was operating from when it comes to the Sixers is just they're going to have so much cap room this offseason. It's like more important. Obviously, they theoretically could make a run this year. But as
Are you
a team
playing
that
for
was
next season?
already struggling.
Jeremy's got him
Are
on
you
like
already
he
playing for
might
next season?
lose his leg if he plays.
No,
Like,
I'm
there's
just
no risk of
Joel
him.
Embiid constantly gets
stepping
hurt.
on a landmine.
That's all I'm
Like, to be
saying
fair,
is having him healthy to start next season when you're building a roster for next year to compete
You weren't
for a
telling me what to
championship.
think. You were just asking me if I'd like
That's
to.
exactly it. That's all I'm trying to do. And now I'm mad. Now I'm mad. Now I want to approach it from the other side.
But this is an off-injured player, and this is the prime of his career.
That's all I'm saying.
You don't just willingly punt on a year of that window because you don't know how long that body will hold
That's
up.
the flip side of the argument. The argument that I was trying to make on his behalf of playing next season is
the argument that you fully
don't
believe
punt.
in.
You don't punt on what next season could be by potentially rushing him back through that treatment plan to get here to try to make a run
I
as
hear
a
what
lower
you're saying.
seed.
Well,
That's all.
Even if
You've
they're in the
never sounded
playoffs,
more like a Heat fan.
even if they're in the playoffs,
You're
you
exactly
still
right. I
want
just don't
him
wanna
to
play
sit.
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know what I'm doing.
Well, it took a while, but the Eastern Conference is finally starting to get some storylines just because we're approaching this end game, Spence. Of look, Miami's always just going to approach the regular seasons this way. It's a little infuriating. I don't see it with them this year the way that I've seen it in years prior. They're not really – they're hanging with these bottom feeder teams in ways that you would really like for them to assert themselves. At times, that Wizards game last night was a little dicey. I'm just not liking what I'm seeing from them. But at the same time, there's very little cohesion. I don't really know what they're capable of. I know that they'll drag a game into a mud. Their offense is limited, but – if I, as a Heat fan, am just going to have to talk myself into Jimmy Butler's going to turn into Michael Jordan again in the postseason, and that's what it's going to take, fine. That's an identity too,
What
I
if
guess.
you went the opposite route? What if you went, hey, let's just – because when they have their most success is when the players are allowed to be who they are. Like Terry Rozier, go out and score. Go do your thing.
He can be who he wants to be in like Bogota.
If he hits 2 out of his first 2 threes, I'm just letting him cook.
He played well last night, Mike.
There's never been a player
He played
who
the
I would
Wizards
rather-
last night.
I would
That's
rather have
true.
him take a step back 3 than a catch
Yes,
and shoot 3
to his
because
left.
he's so much
Yeah.
better at that shot.
Well, that's
It's
a
so
bucket.
weird.
That's the plight of the bucket
Wade.
getter.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that is, and that's why there's always the Wade comps, and he does with his long wingspan. I get it, but he's just inefficient, and I do hope Tyler returns to this lineup so he can take more of those minutes.
I was actually just about to ask, with the results from last year, if you're a Heat fan, who would you prefer to come back here, Caleb Martin or Tyler Hero? And I know obviously Tyler's supposed to be our third best player, but Caleb Martin was great in the playoffs.
Caleb only missed
year.
last game. He's been banged up. I think he missed this past game just in part because they finally did have some players back and active and available, but he'll be ready for the playoffs. Like he played, I think, 36 consecutive games before yesterday. He's been banged up, though, with a lot of different
I have a complicated – my takes are a little all over the place, so I'm going to try to explain it. The Miami Heat played their best ball in the postseason when Tyler Hero got hurt for whatever reason. You can rate Tyler Hero as a player. You can be high on his future, whatever.
Strus and Vincent got hot. That's exactly it.
They get hot in part because Tyler Hero's not there taking their reps. So why would I argue for Tyler Hero to come back over Caleb Martin in this scenario? I'll tell you exactly why.
Tell me.
I'll tell you.
Say it at the same time.
If not, I can tell you.
Because
same time. Wait, same time. All 3 of us. Ready? 3,
Mike
2, 1,
first.
and tell it.
3,
2, 1.
Terry
Tyler
Rozier.
Hero's their best point guard.
Yep, same thing.
Wow.
Well, not you, but
What?
Izzy.
Oh.
Well, no, it's just because before they didn't have a backup to Tyler Hero when he would go out, and so the offense would change, and it would be this this weird thing of either Bam or Jimmy initiating the offense and no true point guard on the court. Whereas now if he goes out, Terry Rozier establishes himself a little bit more. And me as someone that doesn't like Terry Rozier, does not want that. Go ahead and argue why
First of all,
he's their best point guard.
Rozier's been good.
I'm so happy right now. What are we, hour 1, and we're talking straight Heat? Look, I think with Terry Rozier, he's just not the point guard you want at all times. He shouldn't be the guy initiating the offense all the time because he's not going to make the, let's say, obvious first pass sometimes and not let things start to flow. As the two guard, when the job is, hey, catch, make a move, finish, way better suited for that. Tyler Hero stepping in there, they can actually play together, but even when they're not playing together, Tyler is he's been more trained as the point guard for this team for 4 years now, so he's just better at it.
Terry's averaging 18, 4.5, 4.5 with just one turnover per game
over the
this
last
month.
6 games. Yeah, over the last 6
in the
games
month
in which
of
they
March.
played the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell twice, the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Wizards.
Tough games.
Okay.
Hey,
Hey,
Jemele.
what's going on?
How's it going?
Hello. Good, good.
Hi, Jemele. Long time.
Yeah, fire up friendly neighborhood race lady, because I'm coming right there.
We're going right there.
Yeah. Oh, there is people don't understand. There
So
is
much race.
There is a race war coming tonight.
Oh, the race war is, we're hours away. Put the countdown up. Put the countdown up.
Yeah. I'll explain the interaction that I had with Roy, where he didn't want to just come out and say it. All right.
I mean, I didn't have to say it.
All right.
I didn't have to say it, Jemele.
Yeah.
It's there.
Roy's siding with Kim Mulkey tonight, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation I put myself in.
And you know what? We started. I'm sorry, Lewis. I know you don't like that, but we started. Wait, Chris, fire up the friendly neighborhood race lady.
It's time for your friendly neighborhood race lady.
We're good. Jemele, there is a huge race war going down tonight in America, and it's being played out on a basketball court that may or may not have the same size three-point lines. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Roy is going for LSU because I guess he's a big Kim Mulkey fan, and I think
God damn it, Mike!
I think I've pinpointed what's going on here. And I think it's going to become more and more clear on social media as the game goes on. I cited an example of what Bomani told me several years ago, which is there are certain boxing matches that I'm not invited to watch with his friends because he wants to be surrounded by a certain group of friends for those title fights. And I'm feeling like tonight is that night. Can you please speak to, as our friendly neighborhood race lady, what we're going to be witnessing when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese do battle?
It's going down, everybody. We got white America, black America, middle America, like Southern America. It's so many different types of wars that are embedded in this basketball game. And Bo is right. Like, we've seen it in not only in boxing, we've seen it in basketball. I mean, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, we all know what was at the sort of the underbelly of that. And speaking of Bomani, he brought out a recent example on his Twitter feed that was, kind of brought forth by another Twitter user, that this is UNLV Duke all over again. And I hadn't really thought about that. And I was like, as you know, to get people aware of the history, it's like, obviously back in the early 90s, when UNLV just absolutely smoked Duke by 30. And then you have the rematch where Duke won. You all of a sudden, I mean, I think for a lot of Black people, it felt like we had to kind of start over again as a race. Like, what just happened here?
Are the stakes that high tonight? Are the stakes that high that if Angel Reese loses to Caitlin Clark, you need to start over again as a race? And this is going to be a very funny aggregation for you.
I don't know that we have to necessarily start over, but it might have to be, it will be a Black people's meeting, an important one that will be called the next day, where we might have to put some things on the agenda and get it on the table. But that's how people are so emotionally invested in this, because not only, this is what makes this one maybe a little more unique than, say, a Duke UNLV, or even if you want to go back in time and say, a Joe Louis, Max Schmeling type of thing, or with a lot of the boxing matches that we've seen in recent history, is that you also have the gender dynamic that's at play here. And what everybody's sort of preconceived notions about how women are supposed to behave, whether it be Black women or white women. A lot of the digs that get thrown at Angel Reese is about behavior and policing, how she behaves, and Flau'jae Johnson and Kim Mulkey about behavior. And like, no, they're not supposed to act this way. They're not supposed to be this brash. They're not supposed to be this bold. They're not supposed to get on the court and talk their shit. Like, they're not supposed to do these things, because this is not how we have idealized what women in a competitive sport, what that looks like. And I think another thing that kind of sort of inflames this even more is that we see that the criticism is often very one-sided. Caitlin Clark talks her shit. Caitlin Clark is demonstrative. Caitlin Clark, and in this way, I do compare, in many ways I compare it to Steph, but also in this way as well, is that Steph Curry has a lot of flair and flamboyance to his game. Like, he can get into it, you know, with people, and he's got the shimmy and all that, but people aren't bothered by that. Caitlin Clark is the same way. It's like people aren't bothered by it because they're caught up in the narrative of, oh, here's this, you know, wonderful, kind soul from the great state of Iowa representing Middle America. So they put all these sort of, what happens in these sports race wars is everybody projects their own shit on the people coming, and the people who are actually involved in the competitiveness of it, who have nothing to do with any of this. Some of it is media driven, some of it is personally driven. But at the end of the day, what's on the line tonight is an opportunity to go to the Final Four. And that's all they care about. But everybody watching cares about other that has nothing to do with basketball.
Well, I'm just hoping that this doesn't turn into like a Nate Robinson versus Jake Paul situation where all Black America is just going to hang their head like, how could this happen?
I know. That's why I said I said it jokingly, and just so people know, I was joking when I said we'd have to start over.
No,
but
we might have to.
No.
Right.
Babylon
Is that
B is
gonna be the
already
poll
running with
question?
it. I'm sorry.
All right. Is that going to be the poll question? Do Black people have to start over if LSU wins tonight?
Put Jemele's name in that poll question, by the way. Do you agree with
that's
Jemele
okay.
Hill when she says Black people may have to start
Light
over
it
as a
up.
race?
Make my mentions look like a complete warpath, which would basically be called Tuesday, so it doesn't really matter. But no.
Go ahead.
I think what Roy said is kind of right, that there will be this sort of feeling of maybe not necessarily depression, but being let down. Because listen, let's just keep it real. If we're gonna go into the tricky waters of race, let's just dive right on in and not mess around with putting our toe in there. Is the reality is that in many ways, a lot of Black folks consider basketball to be our game. And certainly when you have, and even though, especially in the women's sport, where clearly there's a lot more, there's a lot of American-born white players that have played this game fantastically since it started being remotely relevant, and even before then when it wasn't in women's basketball. The reality is that the sport is about half Black, and yet it's still very much considered our game, just however you want to kind of quantify that. And so this idea that this phenomenon of Caitlin Clark, who many have already branded as the best women's basketball player ever, and that has met with some pushback because, the history of the sport suggests that's a very tough description to have for her, or really a lot of people, not just her, just because of the history of the game, is that to see her defeat a team like LSU that has been so good, the defending national champions. I think that there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of Black folks that might be calling in sick tomorrow.
Jemele's got a great new column at The Atlantic over Shohei Ohtani. Make sure to subscribe to her YouTube page, youtube.com/@itsJemelHill.
Yeah, Jemele, when I see Angel Reese, I automatically, at least a couple of years ago, thought back in the day to like Florence Griffith Joyner and to very, flamboyant, dominant, and probably talking athletes. We've seen it before, maybe not in this sport. It made me laugh when Angel had to basically explain to the media, hey, this is how sports work. Inside the lines, we might say things to each other, but we don't actually hate each other. Do you think that we're finally getting a clue of, hey, the women do this the way everybody else does this?
Yeah, and that's the interesting gender dynamic here, is that one of the reasons why I do like to see the demonstrativeness, not just from just her, but Caitlin Clark, and really a lot of the women's players who are at the top of the game right now, is because it's forcing the media and people, not just the media, but again, some of this is media driven. I mean, hello, that column by the LA Times, that, obviously that became, such a huge talker over the weekend, that played on a lot of these stereotypes. But there's this idea that women need to be more polite in their competitiveness. And, it reminds me kind of the same sort of things I hear about when it comes to hip hop beefs, right? Like Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole, you name it, they can go at each other all day. And everybody, is like, I can't wait to see where somebody goes next. But when Cardi B does it, Nicki Minaj does it, Meg Thee Stallion does it, then it's like, wait, no, the women need to stick together. They need to be better. And so some of it is just about the conditioning of always thinking, even though it's not necessarily the case, it doesn't bear out, that women somehow have to be more elevated in their competitiveness and more moral in how they do it than the guys do. And it's like these women have been competing this way for a long time. Most of them had to grow up competing against boys and men. That was part of their socialization into the sport. So a lot of the behaviors they picked up from seeing men compete. And I just think it's just still shocking that in the year of our Beyonce of 2024, that people still think that women need to be more demure into how they handle themselves in these competitive environments.
Well, let's get to the Kim Mulkey of it all in this race and gender war. Jemele, you mentioned the column by the UCLA beat writer Ben Bolch. He said the quotes were in the column, "This isn't just a basketball game, it's a reckoning. Picking sides goes well beyond school allegiance. Do you prefer America's sweethearts or its dirty debutantes, milk and cookies or Louisiana hot sauce?" That gave Kim Mulkey a stand, something to stand on there. What do you think of all of it?
Yeah, and this was the reporter she should have been attacking. Okay, not Kent Babb from the Washington Post, but again, that's what I was talking about with it being media driven. It's like I'm sure you know who also should feel really insulted is UCLA. Like we got to be milk and cookies out here. Like that's what you think of us. Like we can't be something else that's a little spicier because that's an incredible team, and you know a lot of this. Giving Kim Mulkey a fight, as you know, giving her something to stand on is interesting because there are a lot of people who probably saw her, come after this column, and a lot of, the athletes did as well, which I think was warranted for sure. But then you find yourself having to agree with Kim Mulkey, and then there's a part of your soul that dies a little bit. But that's beside the point. But she was absolutely right, and I think as we see this latest explosion in women's basketball, because I think it's just on track to get even higher than it's already been. The media needs to also sort of come up a little higher too, and in terms of how women's sports are covered and how this particular sport is covered. Because listen, I don't want to be too hard on the writer in this sense. Is that listen, as writers, we've all written columns that we would love to take back. But it's just in today's age, that's just a lot more unforgiving because it's too much information. We should be better than that. I mean, we have been sort of in this fight, if you will, when you think about just how Black athletes versus white athletes used to be more prevalently characterized, period, where you had the white guy who was always his intellect and skill, or his intellect with the game was always very noteworthy. And they made it seem like a lot of Black athletes just hit the genetic lottery, and that's why they were able to ascend to the heights that they are. I thought we moved past that part of it, and this is just sort of an offshoot of that time where we really trafficked in these stereotypes that frankly did a disservice to the athletes who were actually competing.
I'm running short on time here, so 2 quick questions. Please try to keep your answers under a minute here. What do you make of where we've gone with college basketball and that Gino Auriemma's UConn are following this game, and they are a footnote, if that. No one is talking about Gino's UConn here because the sport has evolved to 2 marquee names doing battle. There are plenty of good players. You mentioned a bunch of them that are also playing on this, but this is because of that one moment, the You Can't See Me Tony Yayo moment. This is about Angel versus Caitlin Clark. What do you make of the sea change in the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's beautiful because I remember having to see 50 billion headlines that said, is UConn's dominance bad for women's basketball? And about how they were dragging down the sport because they were just so good. UConn hasn't won a national championship, I think, in 10 years. And that to me shows that this sport has grown appropriately. And I always said when they were dominating, listen, if you believe in women's basketball, believe in this athletes, you will invest and you will stop getting embarrassed. And that's exactly what happened. So sometimes you need a UConn to bring everybody else up. When I started covering women's basketball in 1997, it was unfathomable to think that Tennessee wouldn't dominate forever. And now you look at the different names in the field, the fact that you have NC State that is going to its first Final Four since 1998, a Final Four I covered. It was my first women's Final Four. When you see that Oregon State, I mean, obviously they were up against a juggernaut in South Carolina, but the fact that team and that program is in the mix now, it's many more names that are in it. USC has the #1 recruiting class coming in next year. This year they have Juju Watkins, who was the #1 high school player. So just imagine where they'll be in another year or two. Again, this sport is trending it's been trending up for a while, but now I think you're going to get that sort of big lightning bolt experience. And part of the way you do it is that you have to build rivalries. You have to, in a way, build nonsense. Maybe you mix in a race war here or there, and then you're kind of off to the races.
Thank you for keeping that answer short. What's the best result for tonight?
The best result, I think, is if – oh, man, this is tough because I know a lot of people want to see Caitlin Clark really have another shot at winning the championship. But I'm not going to lie, man. I kind of want to see LSU South Carolina. Not going to lie. All right, so I want to say it's LSU because you kind of still need a villain, so to speak. And I don't consider them to be villainous, but they seem to be very comfortable wearing the quote-unquote black hat. And I think having that presence at the Final Four, you have just as many people who root for them and just as many people who want to see them lose. So I'm going to say it's LSU. And to be honest, I think LSU is the better team. And plus, I ain't picking against my people. You know, I got things on the line myself.
See, it was that easy, right?
I can't.
Neighborhood race lady.
Thank you so much, Jemele. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube page. It's Jemele Hill. Izzy, thank you for joining us today. Do you like scary movies?
No.
You don't?
No. Back when I forget how old I was, but Nightmare on Elm Street, nightmares for years, and I still remember the very vivid dream that I had from that movie. And so ever since then, nah.
Nightmare on Elm Street was such a great franchise in that if you were a young, impressionable person, you would naturally get scared at night, and the big boogeyman would haunt your dreams. And the whole premise is you can't turn to your sleep because the boogeyman gets you in your dreams. It's a great franchise. I'm a big horror movie fan. And there's this even a streaming platform called Shudder, which is a streaming platform just for scary movies. So somewhat on the campy side. But most recently, they've done some really good stuff on the unscripted documentary side. I've really been a big fan of what they've put out. And they have a movie, an original film, that is in the middle of a very limited theatrical run that's going to be exclusive to their streaming service. I saw the reviews for this movie, and I made a day to go find a theater that was playing this movie. The film is called Late Night with the Devil. And the premise is pretty simple. It's kind of mockumentary style in that this is a tape from a broadcast that happened in the late 70s during Sweeps Week. A desperate host turns to a stunt in which he speaks to an author, and the author is a guardian for this little girl. She had written a book, and the book details the possession of this little girl and how there is a demon living inside of this girl that she occasionally communicates with. And the whole broadcast goes sideways. It's a really cool, novel idea that we've seen maybe some other people run with, but it's a good movie. But the reason why I want to mention it is because me seeing this movie, posting a review on Letterboxd for it, someone left a comment on my review saying, have you ever heard of Ghostwatch? You need to watch Ghostwatch. And I didn't know anything about Ghostwatch. And it's actually pretty fascinating. So I saw this movie, Ghostwatch, from 1992. It was a made-for-television BBC special that aired on Halloween night in 1992. And it traumatized the UK. And they got over 1 million calls into their switchboard because of what happened on this fateful night in 1992. And so I was fascinated by the story. I read the Wikipedia entry on it, and this legitimately scared a nation. In 1992, the BBC played a paranormal special, played it straight. It was basically ghost hunters. They were going to observe this house and see if they can see anything spooky to scare you on a Halloween night. You have a traditional host that plays it pretty straight, naturally, by the way. And then you have some people that certainly, after knowing what is about to go down, come off as actors. So, but you have to put yourself in the shoes of someone that is experiencing this in the UK in 1992.
I'm trying to put myself in your shoes at the moment. So you, Mike Ryan, have enough time to do research, find where this movie is playing.
Yeah.
Go spend the amount of time to watch this movie, write a review on said movie.
Letterboxd.
Go back and read the comments from your review,
You get a
only
notification.
to lead you to another
movie. That's not
that you
actually a
want.
movie. That was a made-for-television special across the
And you
pond.
don't have time to be executive producer anymore?
Don't. No, because I'm doing this. So I watched this special.
Full-time job.
Full-time job. Letterboxd is really taking up a lot of my time presently. So I watched this, and I could see how this freaked people out in 1992. There's no internet. There's no dissenting voices on social media saying this is all fake. Now, to me, very clearly comes off fake, but I know going into it that it was this stunt that fooled a lot of people. So it's a slow burn. For much of the special, nothing is happening. In fact, I miss one of the first little instances of something paranormal happening. There was a scene earlier in the special, about 25 minutes in, where they play a recording of a ghost. And in the background, I had to rewind it because my wife caught it. There's something that appears in the background, but they totally ignore it, and nothing shows up for another 20 minutes. And it's all tension building until inevitably stuff goes haywire, and then by the end of the broadcast, you have a full-on poltergeist just haunting this studio, and it goes to break. It does say at the very end, written by. So some people who saw the whole thing understand that this was a fake thing, but I was really taken aback by there was this whole phenomenon, a special that played it straight, that terrified a nation. And now I went down the rabbit hole, and in 1994, the United States did something called Without Warning, in which there was a network television special that positioned itself as a news broadcast. And again, pre-internet, 1994, this thing that resembles a newscast, if you're just flipping through channels, you won't realize that, hey, that's not Brokaw. But the whole news broadcast is that an asteroid is hurling towards Earth, and it's already struck certain parts of the northern hemisphere, and everything devolves there. And this is happening in 1994, where you can't see someone saying, no, this has been in development for several months, this is all bullshit. And it made me miss that era. It made me miss how people could be fooled. And I say that on a day.
People can't be fooled now?
Aren't people being fooled now? Isn't Donald Glover doing a whole
They're being fooled today.
thing?
No. People can be fooled in ways that they can't be fooled
Not
today.
an asteroid.
Because now you didn't need artificial intelligence back in my day to fool a nation.
Now
you
just
need
got Tyra
good,
Banks and some
convincing
furries
writing.
at a Knicks game. Like that's what people are doing to fool people instead of these long, like, freak you out movies, which I'm not a fan of.
It's one thing to share Adorn Schefter in a group chat. It's another thing entirely to force 1 million calls into your switchboard because people could swear they saw a ghost or a demon speaking through a little girl. It's just a different
Isn't that what
time.
living in New York City was like back in the 80s and 90s? Like all these documentaries we see now of how terrible it was over there. It's crazy.
Homicide New York, produced by Dick Wolf on Netflix, is electric. So good.
Dick Wolf does stuff outside of the Law and Order series.
I had no idea until this popped up and it was presented by Dick Wolf,
though.
and I was like,
Very
my
similar
man.
genre.
It is, and they kind of.
I feel like Dick Wolf has a thing. Like he knows his brand.
It's crime, baby.
Yeah.
That's what the crime is. Like he's behind a desk, like flicking a cigarette. Like that's what we do here. Crime, baby. Don't worry about anything else. I don't care about anything else. Crime.
So what makes this different than the Law and Order bunch of acronyms?
So it kind of gives you like a 30,000-foot view of crime from, what would you say, is he like the late 80s to like maybe the 2008
Yeah,
range?
it was after supposedly New York had been cleaned up. Because if you remember the 70s and 80s
Son of
horror
Sam
show,
and all
that's
that.
why my family left New York.
Power outages.
Yeah, so we get to supposedly when it's a little cleaner, little 90s, and there's just a lot of, some cases that are held.
The thing is, you look back in that time and they're talking about different cases that would have been solved very quickly today.
Yes.
Because DNA they didn't have. They were like, yeah, DNA, like you can. There was one, I don't want to spoil it, but there's one episode where there's a blood splatter on the wall, and they're like, look, if we use this blood splatter for DNA, one, we don't know if we can ever use it again, because like we'll use that sample, and B, two, I don't even know if we can get anything from it. So they saved a piece of like wood with blood splatter on it.
And
for
waited
years.
till the technology got better.
And waited till the technology got better, like 5 years later, and then they did it, and then they ended up catching the guy who did it.
Netflix, to me, is becoming, like, there's a couple of shows, Turning Point, one was on 9/11, and one was basically on...
The 9/11 one was really good,
the
too.
atom bomb, going from when it was developed to where we are now with Russia and Ukraine and people
Turning
not
point.
realizing...
Wasn't that like in an NFL game, every NFL game has a turning point, and this aired on Versus?
I think so. But what they're doing, to
Next
me,
generation.
is if everybody watches these documentaries, you're basically going through high school history all over again, but way better, way more detail, way more truthfulness, and it's just entertaining because you get all the visual elements and you get a lot of, now there's a lot of footage from back then. And I watched that whole atom bomb turning point one, and it's basically a backtrack of all of World War II and all the way through, where Russia is right now. Amazing. Like, if they were to just show that documentary for like a semester, for 1 quarter of a school year in American history, kids, or world history, kids would learn so much because it's so compelling and it's just factual information. Like, I remember when I was a kid, when they dropped the bomb in Hiroshima, thinking that...
You were a kid when they dropped the bomb?
No, when we were learning about it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I'm not Greg Cody here. That it had been basically vacated and there were only a few people there. Of course not. There were 100,000 people that were killed, and like they have every single year they have a memorial about it. And so everything about that doc I couldn't recommend more. And there's another 9/11 one which is really good too, but that one was feel like a little bit more.
Yeah, I like how Oppenheimer kind of references the other bomb drops there, and it's just like nothing to see here.
Right.
Just keep moving on. And someone asks a question, wait, what other bomb drops? Nothing. Don't worry about it.
Put a guy in the back of the thing, like one finger up, like,
Hold on a minute.
Excuse me. So on April Fool's, though, I just want to tip the hat because I finally got around to these great TV activations in the 90s that legitimately fooled people. And the key is not putting it on April Fool's because, I mean, IG and Twitter, it's just a wasteland. I don't understand why we keep pushing ahead with April Fool's Day.
What's the deal with that?
Like
everybody, it's a half-assed thing. Nobody really takes it seriously. Anything you read or say or do on that day, nobody really takes it seriously.
Everybody thinks everything's fake already these days. So if you're on alert on April 1st, nothing's going to really work.
When did it start, and why do we continue to propagate this?
To me, it's my older sister's birthday. Happy birthday, Lisette. It will always be
Happy
that
birthday,
first.
Mikey, a buddy of mine.
Oh, nice. Is he single? Because my sister's single. If there's anything that I'm going to remember about April 1st, it's that. And the April Fool's Day, I think, is honestly the worst gimmick in all of America.
You wanna get somewhere real. You make a Fool's Day out of thin air. You just, from here on out, September 14th is when I'm going to...
Do we have some that day? Let me check.
Yeah, just that's when you decide to celebrate it. It can move around like Easter.
It's the worst day to die, right, currently?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
What are the worst days to die?
Celebrities that have died on April Fool's?
I'm on it.
That would have been the day for Betty White to go, right? Because nobody actually believed when people would say Betty White was passing, and then when she actually did, it was on April Fool's.
Mike, bad news. September 14th, National Eat a Hoagie Day. So you're competing against that.
Actually, that's a long con. 2 years ago, I filed a motion for September 14th to become National Eat a Hoagie Day, and I populated the internet so when you would search something, you would think that it's actual National Hoagie Day. But this has been a joke 2 years in the making. You just fell for my September 14th.
And National Cream-Filled Donut Day?
I mean, come on. That one writes itself. But
is there a consensus most famous April Fool's Day prank?
Didn't
Jackie
story,
Chan? Didn't
right?
we think Jackie
Is that an
Chan
April
was
Fool's
dead
Day
one
thing?
year?
Which one?
The April Sid Finch, is that the fake baseball player? Sports
The guy
Illustrated.
from the
my
Mets.
God, am I the old,
No. Sid Finch, the guy, they found him somewhere and he throws like 1,000 miles an hour.
I'm pretty sure that was an April Fool's thing.
Wow, you might have grown up during Hiroshima.
That's crazy.
Oh, man.
All right, let's get back to our wildly popular. Man, people are really fawning over this year's edition of March Sadness, and we got to update some brackets. A reminder that March Sadness is presented by Get Your Guide. Discover over 100,000 unforgettable travel experiences in the U.S. and around the world at getyourguide.com. Chris Cody, what do we have to update now?
We move to the region of death, where we are competing for best punishment costumes throughout the year. And there's some good ones in here, some upsets in the first round. We have a 16 seed, a 15 seed that have made it through. The first matchup we have here is a 9 seed. It is the group dressed up as Anchorman, the Anchorman crew. That's strong. I mean, it's got. I think.
Again, I am much taller than that image would suggest.
People love a group out effort. I don't know what I'm doing here. They like a group effort.
All out
outfit.
You became Andrew Luck for a brief moment too.
I was trying to say effort and outfit.
A group
together.
photo. Just love group costumes.
Podcast audience favorite category.
And that is going against Roy, but they've seen this before.
It's certainly Dan's.
Roy as the bear. That's competing there. We have
Roy advances at 16 seed.
I shouldn't have been a play-in seed, man. I should have been a much better seed than what
Clarify
was
for the
given.
podcast audience, not a bear, but a chef in the Bear.
He's a chef in the Bear. And then we have the 4 seed. Dan is Nacho Libre. I like this one.
Yeah, Dan, surprised some folks with this. He was also very wise to drape the cape over the love handles. That's a very tricky spot.
And the crotch.
Izzy, any exercises that you would recommend for those tricky love handles?
Oh, yeah, side V-ups.
What is that?
Of course.
You want me to get on the floor and do it?
I mean,
we all know what V-ups are. I don't.
No. I can do side V-ups, or you can do
So side V-ups is just kicking the legs?
It's where you're working on the V.
Do it, yeah.
It's where he's working.
Now you have to do it.
Cool. Take your shirt off.
Yeah. Ooh.
Side V-ups. There you go. That's how you do it, guys.
That'd be really easy for me.
Take me to dinner first.
Somebody describe this for the audio audience.
Was that crack your body?
You can do that. That was my feet.
Oh, okay.
So
was that my body?
All right, we'll just let.
plank ups
Was
right
that
there.
crack
We're gonna keep updating this. We'll just let Izzy keep going.
Yeah. So how many do I do? 4 sets of 12? That seems about right. The second that it starts hurting,
Do it
stop.
until your body shuts down.
That's how I do it.
essentially.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
3.
Failure.
Nacho Libre going against 5 seed Amin dressed as Baby Billy, which I think was a strong one. But the next one, the next matchup, I think has the winner of this bracket for me, if I had to vote. Lucy is Bobby Petrino. That's not my vote. The 3 seed is going against what I think is the best one in this, and that's emo Jimmy Butler, Roy. So I think that's
a
what
big matchup.
I think that's what survives here for me from this region. But in our final matchup is Billy as Mankind, 10 seed, going up against Stugotz. I don't know why this moved on. 15 seed Larry Bird. I think the audience is just trolling us.
Historically inaccurate Larry Bird.
Larry
costume,
Bird
too.
hiding behind bushes because he doesn't want people to see his arms. There's Billy as
Billy
Mankind.
killed it as Mankind.
Why do I remember Jeremy in so many costumes?
How am I
and
not in
dude
this bracket?
Cannot get some love?
I was in a costume for like 12 straight weeks, it felt like.
This isn't even the best Billy one.
The fans vote for this. That's why Jeremy's
No,
on it.
in the original bracket, I think I might have had one.
I'm becoming more worried that I'm going to develop a hunchback because of how often I'm looking at my phone. So there was this exercise that I caught, of course, on IG Reels, where it's an exercise where you put your elbows against the wall and you put your fingers, you interlock your fingers behind your head, and you put the balls of your elbow on the wall, and you stand up straight and you stretch, and you hold that for 60 seconds. And it's a crazy good core workout. You feel it in your core, you feel it around your hips, your hip flexors. Like my whole body trembles.
I didn't know your elbows have balls.
Yeah, the balls of the
elbows.
Elbows.
Your weenus.
Your funny bone.
Yeah.
Right.
Bigger balls.
Balls of the elbow.
My weenus is very dry.
Is it?
Like an
dry
elbow
is-
cap.
Where is the weenus?
That's a personal problem.
I'm sorry.
You're touching your weenus right
There-
now.
so that's not a thing. People don't say the balls of their elbow?
No.
No, it's like an elbow cap, right?
Yeah,
Kinda like
so
a
just-
kneecap.
Yeah,
Mine's
I'm
super
sorry.
dry.
Okay, I won't say elbow balls anymore.
You know you
Put
can.
it away, Chris.
All right.
You know you
But
can.
have
You can still do it.
Has
though.
anyone
you
else
can-
tried that?
You know you can pinch your weenus as hard as you want, and you'll never feel it.
Wow.
Roy, try to make my weenus
Yeah.
hurt.
Okay.
Pinch my weenus.
numb.
Like as hard as you want. Like seriously, keep going. I don't feel it. Like go harder. Like I don't feel it.
You don't feel it at all.
No.
Okay, now punch him in the weenus.
Okay.
That's good.
No
clean
one
fun.
else has tried that? I'm telling you, this is how you avoid being a hunchback. The guy says just do that 60 seconds every day. You won't.
I just
become a
walked down the
hunchback.
street with my phone up. And
That's
looking
another thing
straight
too.
up to the
I
sky.
tried to do that on the train. I tried looking at my phone like this to avoid the.
You look like an idiot. You look like you're recording.
Yeah, you look
people.
old. You look like a boomer.
Oh man.
The problem is if somebody, because Mike, we obviously take the train at the same time. Like when you
Obviously.
have that, it looks like you're literally taking a picture.
Yeah,
of
it looks like
somebody.
I'm taking a photo
And
of
there's odd
somebody.
people on the train that can snap. You
Mike,
know?
am I doing this right? Like I'm on the wall. Is this right, Mike?
Do you feel it in your core?
I do feel it.
Yeah. Put
You gotta move your hips back and
put
forth.
your penis like close to that wall.
Yeah, there you go, like that.
Yeah, no. Put your
Oh,
No, not
your
like
belly
that.
button
No,
through
don't
the
thrust
wall.
it.
I don't think you- no,
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 don't
belly
thrust
button
it.
through the wall.
No, you just like hold it in place. Hold it in place.
Holding. Nice.
Yeah, you
Nice.
feel it,
I
right?
don't think he feels anything.
You feel it,
Yeah.
right?
I feel it.
I think
Feel
yeah.
something.
Like that.
You
Are you
feel your
feeling it now,
your
Mr.
core is
Krabs?
shaking.
Yeah, he feels
Yeah,
his
you
weenus.
hold that for 60 seconds. You can do it, bud.
I have to fart.
Oh, don't do that.
Just let it go.
Let it rip. Yeah, let it rip.
No, don't do that in here.
But you feel the trembling in your core, right? Yeah, that's good.
Make sure to press.
I'm
your
pretty sure
weenus
I get
against
abs
the
this
wall.
way too.
Yeah.
You've never seen that before.
I've
Do
never
it.
seen that
This is
before.
how everyone shares this concern that we're
My-
gonna. You've seen the evolution of man graph, where I'm basically just gonna become a ball because of how often I look into my phone. This is a way to combat that.
My Instagram algorithm has people yelling at me, telling me to strengthen my hip flexors. Work your hip flexors.
I have that too.
Work your hip flexors.
I'm on that same one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
My wife
Yeah.
tells me that too.
Yeah.
What for 7 seconds? I felt the hip flexor thing during lockdown.
A lot of sitting.
Yeah, and I saw Gojo tweet about it too. I'm like, good, I'm not losing my mind. My hips are just wrecked here because I'm not being super active.
Which is why I stand, Mike.
Yeah.
We sit a lot in this job. We're usually sitting. So if you stand up, you lengthen up those hip flexors, and you start doing one of these moves right here, really bend them forward.
Do you do running for fun?
Not for fun, just because I need to.
You do.
Because it's not.
Do you do running? Like, I know you run when you hoop, you play ball a lot, but do you ever just wake?
Like
well, it's Sunday.
running.
I got to find 20 minutes
for a
to
little
run.
jog.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's the warm up.
You're a big cardio fiend, are you?
I'm a cardio guy, but I try to get creative with my cardio. I'm not a big runner, but like you get a kettlebell, you start doing some kettlebell swings, some ropes.
That's not running.
No, I mean I go for like a 4-mile run every once in a while. Like just if I don't feel like I've got enough cardio, just kind of go outside, go out there and jog for a while.
Just running sucks, dude. I know that people feel good after it. I feel good
terrible.
after exercise.
How do you bike?
The worst thing.
You guys were talking about
Biking's
running
where
a
it's
6-minute
at.
mile. Is that right?
Greg
On the
Cody
show?
said he could run a 6-minute
I've done
mile.
it, but on a treadmill, and I only did it just to see if I can do it because it's easy math. You just put it at 10 miles per hour and you go. I had my sister stay with me. It was at her house in her backyard. Stay with me because I thought I was going to fall off the treadmill. And so, like, to stay here in case I need
If you
an
get thrown
ambulance.
off, there's no way she can stop you, by the way.
I know.
You're getting thrown off at 10 miles an hour.
It's
all
be
over.
To get the ambulance here faster. So that's all it was. And I ran it 6 minutes, and it was terrible. It was terrible.
I trust that Izzy runs, and I don't trust that you run. I asked you to describe your run, and you all of a sudden you're just doing the rope and kettlebell thing.
He went from running to a whole different workout.
I think you run during basketball, but I don't think you like to run outside of that.
No, I hate running.
Well,
But
running
nobody
sucks.
likes running.
I don't. Roy, do you run?
No. Anid runs.
Anid runs.
Yeah, but I hate running with a passion.
No, running sucks. I do the Peloton.
What do you hate more, running or jumping rope, Roy?
Why you gotta bring up old
Nobody. Yeah, that was bad. Nobody can jog really slow better than I can. Like I can jog at a speed that I'm not jogging.
Prove it.
You're like a race
Like
walker
I'm just like
just moving your
here we
arms
go.
like you're jogging.
All right, so he's yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's good form.
That's good pace right there.
And
I
you
honestly
do that
think
around the
the
block.
core
like-
workout that I just gave you is already paying dividends.
Sneaky calves over there.
I can tell you exactly how old I am without actually telling you my age. I am old enough to get a cramp while I orgasm now. That's happened like 3 times to me since I turned 38.
Mine usually happens like before the orgasm.
Yeah.
Like, where I'm just like, I gotta.
Am I the only one that's happened to?
It's happened to me.
5 times a day. So.
You've gotten it, right?
It's happened to me. It doesn't happen a lot. But
It's
yes.
a little awkward.
And I can usually feel it coming of like I'm about to get a cramp.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. I can sometimes like I'll panic because I'll feel the cramp coming and I'll be like, I just gotta take a break for a second. Like, let me just
take a break.
That feels like an excuse.
It's been
for
13
other things.
seconds.
It's before, during, and after.
Yeah,
You
so
seem like you're
we're
in some
the
pain
same
right
age.
now. Let me take it easy on you.
We're
for
the
a second.
same age. I'm telling you, it's going to happen to you fellas. I don't know if this actually happens to ladies because it's never happened to my wife. Maybe I'm not giving her enough of a workout. But for me, I've gotten 3 cramps since turning 38.
We definitely started, right?
Yeah. Has it
we
ever
started.
happened to you, Izzy?
No, not cramps per se. But let's just say
Giving
I've
the other people
forced
cramps, huh? Give me
myself
some.
to become more flexible as my time has grown because there's certain positions that just require it and just make things a lot easier. And so when you're not uncomfortable in those positions, it's just better for the experience. So
tell
yeah,
you-
try to avoid the cramps.
Begs a follow up, but I'm not gonna do it.
I gotta tell you, I got maybe 4 moves at this point. The scouting report is out. Like if this is MVP baseball during next year's edition of the
John
game,
Dowd?
they're gonna take away the palm ball from my
got
arsenal.
the
Like I don't got the
slider
palm
and the
ball.
fastball.
Although that was a weird pitch for me to reference. The knuckle curve, it's like
Palm ball was great.
You remember
in
when?
MVP
You don't have to split it.
Remember when AJ Burnett had this crazy knuckle curve?
the best.
But then you realize this guy, he would be the greatest pitcher ever if he actually threw this. And then in a later edition of the game, they realize, yeah, he doesn't throw that much. I'm around there. I'm basically Jamie Moyer. I got a fastball. I got a changeup.
Forkball.
And while I can say I've got 4 positions, I really got like two that I believe in firmly.
You're not a 5-tool hitter?
No, not at all. I'm more like a 3-tool hitter, but the other one is also like I'm so tired.
I got to take. The shower sucks.
Especially if there's a height discrepancy. God, like
Too much liquid.
Dude,
That's annoying.
you would think that it would make things easier from a lubrication standpoint. No.
Plus, there's a slip and fall factor.
Hard water. And also, it's such a workout for my quads. Because it's not just like you doing the thing. When there's a height discrepancy, you also have to like low man wins.
But let's be real. The more, quite literally, the more flexibility is from the partner. Like that's the option in terms of positions.
I'm telling you, there's value in a good shower stool. A shower stool, you put one leg up, it helps.
Guys, the circle would have gone crazy.
Yeah. My wife's a saint. It's just a saint because some of these positions, like the shower, it's like no one takes a shower in the dark. So it's just lighting and water dripping, and it's often overhead lighting. It's just I can't even imagine.
Or candles.
I don't necessarily lack for confidence. I pretty much know what I got going on, but there's just horrible. Me, like trying to keep my cardio up too. Not just there's several things I need to keep up there. You also have to perform. At this point, I'm just like, let me get this over with as quickly as possible so my saint of a wife does not have to continue to deal with this because I just don't see it.
They're all saints.
I just don't see it.
I just don't see it with me personally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can have it cooking every now and then, especially in like position one. That
fastball
one,
still
the one when the catcher throws down
the
wall,
old number one.
The old number one.
Yeah, I'm not as good as I once was, but every now and then I can be as good as I
high
ever
and
was.
inside.
There's certain positions you don't want to catch yourself in the mirror.
I don't want to see a mirror at all.
Even
pretty much
walking
at
around
all.
it.
Like my old home had a mirror there, and I was in my 20s, and like, okay, that's all right. But now, oh no shot do I ever want to see any of that. Tony, you're good at sex, yeah?
I don't want to say anything, but the key is stretching.
Yeah.
Right? Being flexible.
I didn't want to say anything, but
Get rid of sex and end that sentence with
something.
any word. And of course, Tony's going to say, well, I didn't want to
There's
say
no
it.
way.
I have a feeling you're good at it.
Pre-sex stretch though can never look cool.
No.
Even if you look as good as Tony
You
does.
stretch?
No. I'm talking about in your everyday life. If you're flexible and you stretch, you don't
Dude,
get
I could put
cramps.
my
Like,
leg over
that's-
my head right now. Flexibility is not the issue.
Do it. I want to see it.
All right.
You can
That's
answer
good.
your phone? I cannot do that. Oh my God. That is an unbelievable skill. Like, unbelievable.
I think I just got a stomach cramp.
not even a
I
shot.
can't, like, look at that.
That's going to affect you
and
later.
This is
Mike just told her his
years
abs.
of
You work out
work.
every
You got a
day.
hernia. That's a hernia.
I got to put that thing on speaker.
It's a gift, really. When I
I need to stretch it out.
Oh, no.
He's in trouble.
Hey, you need to come hang out with me and do that, Chris.
Dude, I used to have a trainer
You'll be
in
the
like
most
high
popular guy in the bar.
I had a trainer in high school baseball, and the guy was always like, "Man, you are flexible." I was like, "Thank you."
Look what I can do.
Is that hereditary?
There's a ball in my stomach right now.
Oh, no. It went back in.
Going downward dog
You're in
there.
legitimate trouble.
No, I'm smoothing it out.
Work it out, Mike. Work it out.
There's a reason why Mike doesn't do pull-ups is because he has a fear of this hernia that's just waiting for him to do a pull-up.
No,
to
he just
explode,
got.
that he just got.
I had hernia
That-
surgery.
You
I
have?
had one, 24 years old.
Really? It's doing pull-ups. Like I feel that it's
He's waiting
It's
for
just
you.
an alien that's waiting to buzz through him. I almost popped
It
out.
just
I think
came
I'm
out.
good. But I am not
Just gotta
putting
push it
my
back
foot
in.
to my head ever again.
To my point, though, there's more than flexibility that's needed.
Wow. I mean, I stand corrected. There's nothing I can say. Like
Honestly,
him putting his head
Guys,
close to his
like,
foot, like, it's crazy.
Like only
Romance.
infants can do that, or like gymnasts.
Yeah.
Romance, I found, is the ultimate lubricator. It really is. You take your time, make the other person feel loved. Maybe a little edging.
And do it with my left too.
Goated.
It's not just my strong hand or foot.
Strong foot.
Anyway.
But just
I cannot
in the
believe you
work.
could do that, Chris.
Put in the work, yeah.
put in the work on the foreplay aspects of stuff.
All out.
Then
effort.
it doesn't really matter if you can only deliver for 13 seconds because
I mean, that's where we all
Build a
thrive.
crescendo.
It's where we have to thrive.
that's where
Yeah,
I win in the margins. I'm like
You're Moneyball of sex?
I'm basically Scott Hatterberg
A lot of
for
walks.
fucking.
A lot of walks. But I'm on base.
When it comes to sex,
A
I'm
lot of
Scott
foul
Hatterberg.
tips.
Other dudes, they can be Giambi.
You know your role you play well?
I know my role.
You guys have done this conversation. What are you the Michael Jordan of? And hold on, because it's nothing to do with actual sex. I am the Michael Jordan of changing the sheets without taking any pillows off the bed.
Oh, wow.
That is a pretty elite
Like a
skill.
magician?
That's talent.
The entire set, including, if necessary, the mattress protector. Take it all. Don't have to move the pillows around.
I don't even understand how that's possible.
Yeah.
I'll have to do a video next
Will you
time.
like unfold one corner and then put the pillows there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how I do the whole thing. It's just, you just kind of keep the pillows in a certain place, kind of in the middle, and then you just slide them underneath, and then you get it out. It's pretty easy. And then putting it back on, not that difficult. Just got to slide it underneath, whatever. I don't like putting pillows on the floor. It's like dust. You get. Like,
You know you have a couch, right? You could put the pillows on the couch and then walk over.
Yeah.
I don't have a couch in my bedroom.
No, but
Yeah,
like you can like
an
walk,
ottoman?
It's a
like
lot of
walk
walking.
walk the cat. No,
I am
put
the
it on
Michael
couch.
Jordan of coughing after my first sip of water.
where it kind of gets stuck in
Yeah,
your
it's
thing,
just I'm elite at it. I'm 90s Jordan when it comes to taking my first sip of water and briefly choking on it.
I am the Michael Jordan of the multiple sneeze. Like once I start sneezing, it just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan of sneezing when I go out in the sun or chew mint gum.
Going
That is
out.
a
Wow.
thing.
What do you mean going out?
No,
into
when you
the
walk
sun?
out into the sun and you see the sun, I'm not the only person.
No,
this
that
happens to,
part
I
I heard.
promise.
That I've heard.
I've never heard that before.
The gum part is
You're
where I
the
was.
Michael
Yeah,
Jordan of chewing minted gum.
Well, no, of sneezing because of like too much mint gum. It's a thing.
So
I
do you
promise.
sneeze when Mike that alien? You gotta push it back in. Do you sneeze when you brush your teeth?
No. It's specifically
So you're
like
not allergic
you know,
to
like
mint.
no. When you like chew mint gum, sometimes like obviously like on the first initial chews, most of the like gum juices or whatever it is, like.
I gotta say
when
we've had a pretty
saliva?
graphic
this
segment
is a
here.
gum
You
juice.
saying gum
I
juices?
know it sounds bad. I didn't know how else
was-
to describe it.
That
saliva?
was vile.
Yeah, I guess saliva, but it's not your saliva.
Gum juices works.
No, just saliva mixing with the
It's
flavor
not
of the gum.
great. I really, for lack of a better word, I had to say gum juices, and I'm not happy
Stop
about
saying
it.
that.
Did you guys
This-
used to like the
It's
gum
not great.
with the exploding juice in the middle, or no? Because I thought
No, I
feel like
didn't.
guys didn't kind of like that for certain reasons.
It was all right.
I don't even think I ever had that. Who,
I don't think
who
you
made
will.
it?
Yeah,
no
it's
principle.
like the gut. Yeah, well,
I only chew Trident because I'm a big Mariners guy.
I'm
now.
the Michael
I had
Jordan of walking up to my front door with a hands full of groceries and having my keys in the inconvenient pocket.
ooh,
that have
good
Where I'm
one.
like, where I have to like reach awkwardly across my.
It's a good
legs.
one.
So you're the guy that carries all the bags in at the same
All
time.
of them.
You have
Well,
to.
that's also a Michael Jordan skill.
Yeah,
I
it is.
do firmly believe that everyone listening to this right now is capable of being the absolute best at something. Now, it may not always be good. You could be the best at getting a hernia if you decide to put your foot to your face. But, man, you own that.
You know you're supposed to use your back muscles when you do pull-ups, right? What are you doing over here?
I do use my back muscles, but also, like, it's just dying to come out and play. And that exercise in
He
particular.
can't control it, is he? That's the
Yeah,
thing.
like I have a massive hernia that's just been brewing for three years, and the only reason it hasn't come out to play is I've been smart about it. I play with it myself. Classic Scott Hatterberg.
Chris, what's
I'm not
the
going to be
closest-
chasing a ball outside.
What's the closest
I'll
you've
stick
got
to
to
missionary.
your fingers falling off when you're carrying all those things? Because you know they like.
Oh yeah, the
stop
blood starts like by the end. It's like
circulation,
pink. One of my
and
ring
it takes
fingers.
like a
yeah.
full 15 minutes for the dent to leave your finger.
I can carry groceries. I'm the LeBron of that. I'm second best at that.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely Scottie Pippen of answering your phone because that is effing impressive.
Yes. Well, Scottie Pippen is really good.
Yeah, I know,
I'm bad
right.
at that.
The best.
Tony, are you the Michael Jordan of anything? And don't say basketball.
Waking up like 2 minutes before my alarm goes off, where I can't go back to sleep because the alarm's gonna ring and then it's gonna, whatever. So
I got to tell you, we got an Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark situation there because I'm pretty damn good at that too.
Really?
Yeah,
It's just called a body clock.
my body clock is elite.
it's not as
Like
good.
I have an elite body clock where I'll wake up and be like, oh, it's 7:04,
Yeah.
and then I look over and then I'm like, oh,
That's
it's
bull- You
I'm
don't
pretty great
say
at
to
that.
yourself,
I'm pretty
"This is
great
what
at
it
that.
is."
I'll
My-
wake up in the
my-
middle of the night. I'm like 3:27, and
That's a
sure
fun
enough,
game.
I'm
It's a
like
fun
within
game.
like
It's a fun
2
game.
And then
minutes.
it's 4:19, and you're.
No, never. I'm never surprised by the time ever.
the best feeling in the world is waking up thinking it's close to your alarm and it's actually like 2 in the morning.
Oh, those
great
are
feeling. That's a
those
good
are the
feeling.
best sleeps.
The 1 a.m. and you're like, I still have 5 hours to sleep.
It's incredible.
That's great.
You know that saying, "Where does the time go?" Does not apply to me. I just know where it goes.
is.
I know where it is at all
Exactly where it
times.
is.
The same way Dan
You never
knows
lose it.
blood.
Yeah.
You know time.
Where are you, time?
Yeah, I just
there you
know.
Just got to look at the sun, baby. That's it.
Yeah.
The
And
sun also
sneeze.
helps.
It makes you sneeze, though.
Yeah.
according to
I'm
Jeremy.
worried about that, by the way, just to make
We gotta walk outside
reference to
first.
that.
Yeah.
Why are you sneezing when you go outside and see sun?
I'm not the only person.
It's
that this
because
happens
he,
to.
I've never
squints,
heard that
The sun
ever.
makes him squint,
Yeah.
and the
And-
squint
and it
makes
opens up
him
the
sneeze.
nasal
Look at
passage.
that's
No
when you want a
situation.
sneeze to
The-
come.
the
like if
gum
you're losing a
juices,
sneeze,
though?
like look into the light.
Gum
so that kinda
juices.
makes sense.
Oh, wow.
I can tell you exactly how old I am without actually telling you my age. I am old enough to get a cramp while I orgasm now. That's happened like 3 times to me since I turned 38.
Mine usually happens like before the orgasm.
Yeah.
Like, where
has
I'm
that,
just like, I gotta.
am I the only one that's happened to?
It's
You're the only one
happened
doing
to me.
5 times a day. So.
You've gotten it, right?
It's happened to me. It doesn't happen a lot. but
It's
yes.
a little awkward.
And I can usually feel it coming of like
Hell
I'm
yeah.
about to get a cramp.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. I can sometimes like I'll panic because I'll feel the cramp coming and I'll be
And
like,
you'll
I just gotta
change
take a break for a second. Like,
Whoa.
let me just
Take a break.
That
It's
feels
been
like an excuse
It's been
for all
13
of it.
seconds.
It's before, during, and after.
Yeah,
You
so
seem like you're in
we're
some
the
pain
same
right
age.
now. Let me take it easy on you.
We're
for a
the
second.
same age. I'm telling you, it's going to happen to you fellas. I don't know if this actually happens to ladies because it's never happened to my wife. Maybe I'm not giving her enough of a workout. But for me, I've gotten 3 cramps since turning 38.
We definitely started, right?
Yeah. Has it
we
ever
started.
happened to you, Izzy?
No, not cramps per se. But let's just say
Giving
I've
the other people
forced
cramps, huh? Give me
myself
some.
to become more flexible as my time has grown because there's certain positions that just require it and just make things a lot easier. And so when you're not uncomfortable in those positions, it's just better for the experience. So
tell
yeah,
you-
try to avoid the cramps.
Begs a follow up, but I'm not gonna do it.
I didn't tell you. I got maybe 4 moves at this point. The scouting report is out. I'm like good at 2 of them. Like if this is MVP baseball during next year's edition of the
John
game,
Dowd?
they're gonna take away the palm ball from my
got
arsenal.
the
Like I don't got the
slider
palm
and the
ball.
fastball.
No palm.
Although that was a weird pitch for me to reference. The knuckle curve, it's like
Palm ball was great in
Remember when?
MVP
You don't have to split it.
remember when AJ Burnett had this crazy knuckle curve?
the best.
But then you realize this guy, he would be the greatest pitcher ever if he actually threw this. And then in a later edition of the game, they realize, yeah, he doesn't throw that much. I'm around there. I'm basically Jamie Moyer. I got a fastball, I got a changeup,
Forkball.
and while I can say I've got 4 positions, I really got like two that I believe in firmly.
You're not a 5-tool hitter?
No, not at all. I'm more like a 3-tool hitter, but the other one is also like I'm so tired.
I gotta take. The shower sucks.
Especially if there's a height discrepancy. God, like
Too much
I'm not-
liquid.
Dude,
That's annoying.
you would think that it would make things easier from a lubrication standpoint. No.
Plus, there's a slip and
Hard-
fall factor.
Hard water. And also, it's such a workout for my quads. Because it's not just like you doing the thing. When there's a height discrepancy, you also have to like low man wins.
But
type
let's
of
be
thing.
real. The more, quite literally, the more flexibility is from the partner. Like that's the option in terms of positions.
I'm telling you, there's value in
I
a
might be giving
good
something away.
good shower stool. A shower stool, you put one leg up, it helps.
Guys, the circle would have gone crazy.
Yeah. My wife's a saint. It's just a saint because some of these positions, like the shower, it's like no one takes a shower in the dark. So it's just lighting and water dripping, and it's often overhead lighting. It's just I can't even imagine.
Candles.
I don't necessarily lack for confidence. I pretty much know what I got going on, but there's just horrible. Me, like trying to keep my cardio up too. Not just there's several things I need to keep up there. You also have to perform. At this point, I'm just like, let me get this over with as quickly as possible so my saint of a wife does not have to continue to deal with this because I just don't see it.
They're
With
all
me.
saints.
I just don't see it.
I just don't see it with me personally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can have it cooking every now and then, especially in like position 1. That
fastball
one,
still-
the one when the catcher throws down the
old
one, I'm
number
like,
one.
The old number 1.
Yeah, I'm not as good as I once was, but every
Chet
now and then I
Stedman.
can be as good as I
High
ever
and
was.
inside.
There's certain positions you don't want to catch yourself in the mirror.
I don't want to see a mirror at all.
Even
Pretty
just
much
walking
at
around
all.
it.
Like my old home had a mirror there, and I was in my 20s, and like, okay, that's all right. But now, oh no shot do I ever want to see any of that. Tony, you're good at sex, yeah?
I don't want to say anything, but the key is stretching.
Yeah.
Right? Being flexible.
I didn't want to say anything, but
Get rid of sex and end that sentence
Say
with
something.
any word. And of course, Tony's going to say, well, I didn't want to say
There's
it.
no way.
I have a feeling you're good at it.
Pre-sex stretch though can never look cool.
No. I'm
Even if you
talking
look
about-
as good as Tony
You
does.
stretch?
No. I'm talking about in your everyday life. If you're flexible and you stretch, you don't
Dude,
get
I could put my
cramps.
leg
Like,
over my
that's-
head right now. Flexibility is not the
Do
issue.
it. Do it. I want to see
All
it.
Wow. You can
That's
answer
good.
your phone? I cannot do that.
Oh my God.
That is an unbelievable skill. Like, unbelievable.
I think I just got a stomach cramp.
Not even a
I
shot.
can't, like, look at that.
That's gonna affect you
and
later.
This is
Mike just tore one of his
years
abs.
of
You work out
work.
every
You got a
day.
hernia. That's a hernia.
I got to put that thing on speaker.
It's a gift, really. When I
I need to stretch it out.
Oh no.
He's in trouble.
Hey, you need to come hang out with me and do that, Chris.
Dude, I used to have a trainer
You'll be
in
the
like
most
high.
popular guy in the bar.
I had a trainer in high school baseball, and the guy was always like, "Man, you are flexible." I was like, "Thank you."
Like, look what I can do.
Is that hereditary?
There's a ball in my stomach right now.
Oh no. It went back in. Going downward dog.
You're in
there.
legitimate trouble.
No, I'm smoothing it out.
Work it out, Mike. Work it out.
There's a reason why Mike doesn't do pull-ups is because he has a fear of this hernia that's just waiting for him to do a pull-up.
No,
to
he just
explode,
got.
that he just
I
got.
had hernia
That-
surgery.
You
I had
have?
one. 24 years old.
Really? It's doing pull-ups. Like I feel that it's
He's waiting
It's
for
just
you.
an alien that's waiting to bust through. I almost popped
It
out.
almost
I think
came
I'm
out.
good. I think I'm good, but I am not
Just gotta push
putting
it
my
back
foot
in.
to my head ever again.
To my point, though, there's more than flexibility that's needed.
Wow.
Stamina.
I mean, I
Stamina.
stand corrected. There's nothing I can say. Like
Honestly,
him
one thing,
putting his head
guys,
close to his
like,
foot, like, it's crazy.
Like only
Romance.
infants can do that, or like gymnasts.
Yeah.
Romance, I found, is the ultimate lubricator. It really is. You take your time, make the other person feel loved. Maybe a little edging.
And do it with my left too.
Goated.
It's not just my strong hand or foot.
Strong foot.
Anyway.
But just
I cannot
in the
believe you
work.
could do that, Chris.
Put in the work. Yeah.
put in the work on the foreplay aspects of stuff.
All out.
Then
effort.
it doesn't really matter if you can only deliver for 13 seconds because
I mean, that's where we all
Build to
thrive.
crescendo.
It's where we have to thrive.
that's where
Yeah,
I win in the margins. I'm like
You're Moneyball of sex?
I'm basically Scott Hatterberg
A lot of
for
walks.
fucking.
A lot of walks. But I'm on base.
When it comes to sex,
A
I'm
lot of
Scott
foul
Hatterberg.
tips.
Other dudes, they can be Giambi.
You know your role you play well?
I know my role.
You guys have done this conversation. What are you the Michael Jordan of? And hold on, because it's nothing to do with actual sex. I am the Michael Jordan of changing the sheets without taking any pillows off the bed.
Oh wow.
That is a
Wow.
pretty elite
Like a
skill.
magician?
That's
You're like-
talent.
The entire set, including, if necessary, the mattress protector. Take it all. Don't have to move the pillows around.
I don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
understand how that's
Just
possible.
gonna have to-
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll have to do a video next
Will you
time.
like unfold one corner and then put the pillows there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how I do the whole thing. It's just, you just kind of keep the pillows in a certain place, kind of in the middle, and then you just slide them underneath, and then you get it out. It's pretty easy. And then putting it back on, not that difficult. Just got to slide it underneath, whatever. I don't like putting pillows on the floors, like dust. You get.
You know you have a couch, right? You could put the pillows on the couch and then walk over.
Yeah.
I don't have a couch in my bedroom.
No, but
Yeah,
like you can like
an
walk,
ottoman.
It's a
like
lot of
walk
walking.
walk the cat.
I am the Michael Jordan of coughing after my first sip of water.
where it kind of gets stuck in
Yeah,
your thing,
it's just I'm elite at it. I'm 90s Jordan when it comes to taking my first sip of water and briefly choking on it.
I am the Michael Jordan of the multiple sneeze. Like once I start sneezing, it just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan of sneezing when I go out in the sun or chew mint gum.
Going
That is
out.
a
Wow.
thing.
What do you mean going out?
No, when
into
you
the
walk
sun?
out into the sun and you see the sun, I'm not the only person.
No,
this
that
happens to,
part
I
I heard.
promise.
That I've heard.
I've never
before.
heard that before.
The gum part is
You're
where
the
I was.
Michael
Yeah,
Jordan of chewing minted gum.
Well, no, of sneezing because of like too much mint gum. It's a thing.
So
I
do you
promise.
sneeze when Mike that alien? You gotta push it back in. Do you sneeze when you brush your teeth?
No. It's specifically
So you're
like
not allergic
you know,
to
like
mint.
no. When you like chew mint gum, sometimes like obviously like on the first initial chews, most of the like gum juices or whatever it is, like.
I gotta say
when
we've had a pretty
saliva?
graphic segment here.
gum
You
juices.
saying
Disgusting.
gum
I
juices?
know it sounds bad. I didn't know how else to
was-
describe it.
That
saliva?
was vile.
Yeah, I guess saliva, but it's not your saliva.
Gum juices works.
Just saliva mixing with the
It's
flavor of
not
the gum.
great. I really, for lack of better word, I had to say gum juices, and I'm not happy about it.
Did you guys used to like the
It's
gum
not great.
with the exploding juice in the middle, or no? Because I thought
No, I
feel like
didn't.
guys didn't kind of like that for certain reasons.
It was all right.
I don't even think I ever had that. Who made it?
Yeah, it's like the gut. Yeah, well.
I only chew Trident because I'm a big Mariners guy.
I'm
now.
the Michael Jordan of walking up to my front door with a hands full of groceries and having my keys in the inconvenient pocket.
Ooh,
that happens.
Where I'm like, where I have to like reach awkwardly across my.
It's a good
legs.
one.
So you're the guy that carries all the bags in at the same
All
time.
of them.
You have
Well,
to.
that's also a Michael Jordan skill.
Yeah,
I do firmly believe that everyone listening to this right now is capable of being the absolute best at something. Now, it may not always be good. You could be the best at getting a hernia if you decide to put your foot to your face. But, man, you own that.
You know you're supposed to use your back muscles when you do pull-ups, right? What are you doing over here?
I do use my back muscles, but also, like, it's just dying to come out and play. And that exercise in
He
particular.
can't control it, is he? That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Like, I have a massive hernia that's just been brewing for three years, and the only reason it hasn't come out to play is I've been smart about it. I play with it myself. Classic Scott Hatterberg.
Chris, what's
I'm not
the
going to be
closest-
chasing a ball outside.
What's the closest
I'll
you've
stick
got
to
to
missionary.
your fingers falling off when you're carrying all those things? Because you know they like.
Oh yeah, the
stop
blood starts like by the end. It's like
circulation,
pink. One of my
and
ring
it takes
fingers.
like a
yeah.
full 15 minutes for the dent to leave your finger.
I can carry a shit ton of groceries. I'm the LeBron of that. I'm second best at that.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely Scottie Pippen of answering your phone because that is effing impressive.
Yes. Well, Scottie Pippen is really good.
Yeah, I know.
I'm bad
Right.
at that.
The best.
Tony, are you the Michael Jordan of anything? And don't say basketball.
Waking up like 2 minutes before my alarm goes off, where I can't go back to sleep because the alarm's gonna ring and then it's gonna, whatever. So
I got to tell you, we got an Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark situation there because I'm pretty damn good at that too.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just called a body clock.
my body clock is elite.
It's not as
Like
good.
I have an elite body clock where I'll wake up and be like, oh, it's 7:04.
Yeah.
And then I look over and then I'm like, oh,
That's
it's
bullshit.
7:04.
You
I'm
don't
pretty
say
great
to
at that.
yourself,
I'm
"This
pretty
is
great
what
at
it
that.
is."
I'll wake up in the
my-
middle of the night. I'm like 3:27, and sure enough, I'm
It's a
like
fun
within
game.
like a
It's a fun
2
game.
And then
minutes.
it's 4:19, and you're like, shit.
No, never. I'm never surprised by the time ever.
The best feeling in the world is waking up thinking it's close to your alarm, and it's actually like 2 in the morning.
Oh, those
great
are
feeling. That's a
those
good
are the
feeling.
best sleeps.
The 1 a.m. and you're like, I still have 5 hours of sleep.
It's incredible.
That's great.
You know that saying, "Where does the time go?" Does not apply to me. I just know where it goes. I know where it is at all
Exactly where it
times.
The same way Dan knows
never lose it.
blood.
Yeah.
You know time.
Where are you, time?
Yeah. I just
there you
know.
Just got to look at the sun, baby. That's it.
Yeah. The
And
sun also
sneeze.
helps.
It makes you sneeze, though.
Yeah.
according to
I'm
Jordan.
worried about that, by the way, just
can.
to make
We gotta walk outside
reference
for
to
that.
that.
Yeah.
Why are you sneezing when you go outside and see sun?
I'm not the only person.
It's
that this
because
happens to.
I've never
squints,
heard that
The sun
ever.
makes him squint,
Yeah.
and the
And-
squint
and it
makes
opens
him
up the
sneeze.
nasal
Look at
passage.
it.
No
You want a
situation.
sneeze to
The-
come?
the
like if
gum
you're losing a
juices,
sneeze,
though?
like look into the light.
Gum
that
juices.
Kinda makes sense.
Oh, wow.
All right, post-game show. Give me that upward clock.
At a certain point, I said I'm the Scott Hatterberg of fucking.
Yeah.
Just bleep that fucking.
Yeah, but it's also going to be the title of the
I'm
episode.
the Scott Hatterberg of fucking.
I almost said I'm David Justice, but that was
Miguel
If you're
Tejada.
A's era David Justice.
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
which
which is like, I used to be great at this.
past the prime, but you can still be a leader.
I used to be great. You have no idea. I used to be great at this. And then they ask, what do you mean I have no idea? How did you know? And I'm like, you're like, no, it's not important. It's just a figure of speech. I have no experience out there.
The Two Americas drop in was just like we could do a
Well
whole
done.
show of the differences between male sex and male female sex. It's you guys don't want to know.
There is something that I
The
want
Brian
to
Jordan.
You enjoy showers.
to wrap a bow around this show. We know who who Roy's going for. He's going for Angel Reese, and mostly because of Kim Mulkey.
Yeah, exactly.
But who else is everybody else going for? I don't. Tony,
You know who I'm going for?
commercial free Monday Night Raw. I'm going for the remote. That's where I'm going. Who are you rooting for?
I don't really have a pull either way, right? Like I like watching good basketball, so for me, like I don't have an allegiance.
He's afraid to answer the question.
No, I'll answer the question. I don't really care, but like when I watch Caitlin Clark or when I watch Angel Reese, obviously two different stylistic.
Lucy's a friend.
Sure, of course.
You want her to be happy. But also with friends.
But
you
I want
them
Roy
to-
to, I want Roy to be happy too.
Yeah, but Roy's.
Yeah, but I don't want Kim Mulkey
Roy's
to be
such
happy.
a big
That's
Kim
why I'm in this
Mulkey guy that
situation.
also I don't. want him to be
I
heartbroken.
don't want all black people to have to start over.
Yeah, don't want that to happen.
That's bad.
Well,
Yeah,
what I'm trying to do is
I'd probably say LSU.
Okay.
If you pin me down, I'd probably say LSU. I like the villainy.
I am
of
pinning you
Mulkey.
Pin him down, Chris. Pin him down.
Somebody try.
You like the villainy?
Would you
I like the
You like
villainy.
to have a bad guy.
I like the villainy of Mulkey. I think Angel Reese is an excellent player. Obviously, there's other aspects of the women's game. You got Don Staley. You got the Gamecocks, who are 36-0. By the way, we haven't spoken about them.
She does it for me. She does it for me. Kim Mulkey.
Gino Auriemma, Juju Watkins. Like there's different characters that I feel like Caitlin Clark's a good story, but she's a very singular story.
Yeah.
Right. In LSU, we have the multi-level story.
But she's a
Mulkey,
singular story in that
Reese.
she's also the biggest thing going in the sport.
Sure, but I
she
think
transcends
it can
the
survive
sport.
without it, though.
Does the question matter? Who has the best chance? Who has the best chance against against South Carolina and UConn?
I don't think.
Or are we just like that doesn't matter?
Although South Carolina has shown that they're probably a little bit more susceptible to being caught than most would have anticipated. They've been tested some. I'm rooting for. I think I'm going into this game rooting for Caitlin Clark, but yet another wrestling analogy. WrestleMania 13, I believe. Bret Hart versus Stone Cold.
So well with me.
The greatest double turn in the history of the business, where Stone Cold goes into that match as a bad guy, Bret Hart goes into that match as a good guy, and throughout the course of the match, they end up on opposite sides of the spectrum, and Stone Cold gets launch padded into being arguably the most over babyface in the history of the business, and that's because they played the double turn perfectly. I'm going into this with an open mind. I want Caitlin Clark to win because we have Lucy here, and I know even though Roy cares deeply about Kim Mulkey, she's deeply passionate about Iowa basketball. I want my friend to be happy. But at the same time, I'm not ruling out Angel Reese and company winning me over, depending on how this game goes.
I want to see a close game in the fourth quarter. I'm going to take a little easy way out like Tony did a little bit.
I'm not taking an easy way out.
We did at first until we pinned you down.
You took LSU. That's not easy.
No, but then we pinned him down. At first, he was like, I want to see good basketball.
No, but my point was I don't really have a dog in the fight, so I don't really care. I
I'm
just
with
want to
you.
see good hoops.
I'm going to go with Lucy. I'll root for Iowa.
Okay.
I would like to, first of all, I would like Caitlin to be at her best, like her ultimate powers,
Yeah.
to show off win or lose. I want her to be not have like a 5 for 30 type.
Yeah. If she loses, the story is she couldn't have done more than she did on the court. That's great.
Right. If you're asking me who I think the better story is going to be, it's like I said earlier in the show. I think if Angel Reese and LSU wins, it continues the rivalry a little bit further and gives Caitlin something to aim for in her professional career. Who do I want to play? Who do I want to watch basketball more often? I'd rather watch Caitlin Clark play again. I really want to see her play against Paige Beckers, and that's the matchup that I want to have. But that's just selfish basketball reasons.
Right. I mean, I understand what you're saying about wanting to see LSU against South Carolina. That is a rivalry in that sport. But you have this singular story, as Tony put it, and we have all this drama